happy. And we have a little heaven down.
Yeah. So heaven inashuka siku hiyo.
Hapo.
Papo hapo.
It comes to you. So, welcome to Friday. If you're happy and you know, clap your hands.
It's interesting about choruses, isn't it?
Yes.
Simple to the point and it resonates.
Kabisa.
I think the simplicity is what actually even made you happy, just singing a very simple, happy song.
Yeah. Yeah. And the repetitive part of it.
The repetitive, now that one makes life even easier.
All you're just saying is respond. Yes,
it doesn't require you to think very hard. It just requires you to respond.
Yeah. Just respond and you're good. So, welcome to the Situation Room. We have a lot of conversations to have today. Now, very many things happening in the country and in the world. Today, we'll have a guest host who's one of our listeners, and this is the former Chief Justice, Dr. Willie Mutunga. He'll be joining us from 7 o'clock. So you have a number of conversations on, what this country and this continent needs and how we need to think. We also have a number of conversations, of course, on what's happening in terms of our political movement and our political organization, transformative movements and their leadership, what is required. Yote tutaongelea yote transformative movements and their leadership. That's what the former Chief Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga will be here. We'll be having conversations around that. What's happening in the neighborhood?
Tanzania. Well, one of the things that seems to be happening is the narrative that Tanzania has no COVID, I think, is beginning to unravel. Yes. More and more people, you hear snippets, more snippets than you did before, of illnesses, of deaths. So should I say that the reality of COVID has... Well, I think by the time you're hearing snippets, it means it has actually descended on Tanzania. Because then how could it be that Tanzania is an island that is unaffected by COVID and all its neighbors in this region, all, and I mean all its neighbors, have an issue with COVID. So that is one of the things that has happened. So, and the problem with this, the word floodgates comes to mind. It means that even if there is a deliberate effort by the government to minimize the conversation around it, unfortunately, it doesn't minimize it. It makes it more potent. Yes.
It doesn't minimize the presence and the spread of COVID.
No, it doesn't. And it also doesn't minimize the conversation around it. Yes.
But I'm looking at it and I'm also remembering at some period last year. So in the past few days, we've seen social media reports coming from Tanzania, some recirculating old news clips of the President John Magufuli talking about COVID-19. That's a clip from early last year when he was talking about, yes, there's corona and what you can do to jihadari. And then we have also seen a renewed statement by the U.S. Embassy in Tanzania. Remember they released one last year where they were saying, we hear unconfirmed reports that hospitals are full. And then they were told, all right, so shaurienu. Now they've released another report, another statement again, basically cautioning American citizens within the country that, we also hear that there is a spread and in the event of a surge, the health facilities in TZ are likely to be overwhelmed, which is obvious. And I remember similar things happening at some point last year in Tanzania. Same, videos going around. So, somebody who appears to have fallen and died on the streets. It's not clear what has killed them, but then the videos would go around. It's not even clear the date of that video. They would go around, and the impression and the vibe would be, this is what is happening in TZ. People are dying on the streets. People are falling off, dying in large numbers. I think we're back there again. That kind of vibe.
The vibe is there, But it follows, you see, at that particular point in time and why it didn't really gain traction, it followed predictions that were envisioned or foreseen that people on this particular continent would go that way. They'd be falling off and just dying on the street. It didn't happen. Okay? So that particular prophecy went unfulfilled.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you look at Tanzania's neighbors, and we being one of them, when we heard about COVID, very strict measures were taken. The governments, whether it's Kenya, whether it's Uganda, whether it's Rwanda, there was no joking with it.
Yeah.
They took it seriously and they took serious steps. However, if you look at a country that had whose president had a similar attitude to that of the Tanzanian president, that is not even America. I'm talking about Brazil. President Jair Bolsonaro. Man, it has had disastrous consequences in the country. Disastrous. Forget people being infected, people who have died.
Yeah.
He himself got infected. So what I'm saying is, it is one thing to politicize a situation, but it is another to claim that you have the interests of your people at heart, and then the actions that you take directly contradict the very thing that you're saying, because people then suffer because of your actions.
Yeah.
Yes. And not in large numbers. The problem with COVID, forget the suffering now. Cumulatively, it's like COVID has been given an opportunity to spread seriously in Tanzania. So curbing it. You see, most countries realize you want to halt this thing in its tracks. Tanzania did the complete opposite. Let's open the doors to this thing. Now, reining it in is going to be tricky. Very, very tricky.
You've seen the campaign that's being spearheaded by the health minister. She has been campaigning and going public and saying, you know what, that whole thing of steaming, which Tanzanians they really hold dear and they do a lot of. So she's even releasing videos of her and her husband going and covering themselves with the blanket and steaming, and then they've created this thing where
Covering themselves the blanket.
yeah,
And she's making it public?
and and steaming. They're sitting outdoors, you know.
It's now out.
So they come with a sufuria, and they've put these herbs in the sufuria, and it has the steam coming out. All right, you know the way they're steaming, they do it.
Yes, and you
So
inhale the steam.
You cover yourself in the blanket. In that steam, you inhale the steam, and then you uncover yourself, and you say, all right, so keep doing this several times a day, or several times a week, and it boosts your immunity. Then they've come up with this now contraption where I've seen some people in uniform. I don't know whether those are military or they're NYS. I don't know who they are. Basically getting into this chamber. It's a steaming chamber. People out there who are doing the thing of boiling the herbs, wanaweka kuni, and then groups of people enter into this chamber, and you come out after a few minutes, all sweating and breathing clearly.
You know,
this is what now they're promoting, basically.
look, even every time you have a problem that is brought about by a virus such as this one, believe me, there are very many people who come up with very many concocted ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Now, the problem usually is not that those things don't work, but they are not what these people are claiming it is. Because in most cases, they're claiming it to be a cure.
It's a cure, yes.
Yes, an end all, and it isn't. It is useful. It can even help. In the early days of HIV, we had our own people. One Professor Bell and the then director of Cambridge. They came up with something called Cameron. If Cameron had not been presented, or at least the belief that was around with that was a cure, if it was just mentioned as a possible treatment, all the hoo-ha and the furor about it would not have arisen. Because there can be many treatments.
Yeah.
Now, as to how effective they
So
are,
they presented it as cure.
it was believed to be a cure.
Okay.
Believed to be a cure.
Okay.
Yes.
And who was in the front line of trying to suppress that information about Cameron? Was it our government, or was it...
It was out in the open for a
global
long time. But you see,
medical
scientists questioned it, because if you are going to present something, even if as a treatment, people want to understand, okay, Tell us about the processes that you followed
Yeah.
so that we understand. Remember, even when you are in the process of developing a drug, the reason why these processes are demanded is so that your peers can also interrogate that information and determine that what you're saying is actually true.
Yes.
By the time something is being produced and given to the public, it has gone through whether it's peer review,
Yeah.
whether it's the checks
There are
and
stages that
yes, the
must
checks
go
and balances are there. Because at the end of the day, no one is claiming it can't do good. But what about the harm that it can likely cause? That is what you need to look into, and the degree of harm. Now, usually this is acceptable. This one, it's not adverse. Somebody may get a headache or stomach, but beyond that,
It's okay.
it will not cause anything that we will consider problematic.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember, we're talking about COVID. Eh? Have we not, and we still have, people coming up with all manner of things. Essentially, what we are seeing, not cures, we are seeing situations where people are talking about something or things that could actually provide some sort of treatment, reduce the pain, reduce the discomfort. And that is why many of the approaches that were given previously had to do with a mixture concoction. This and this and this and this and the other. Okay? But the truth is, even as we have vaccines, believe me, we will have even other vaccines.
More and more will come.
We will have other vaccines because, one, you will have vaccines that work infinitely better, whose efficacy rate is higher, percentage is higher. But again, you will have specialized vaccines that deal with young people, people who are adolescent, people over a certain age. They will come about. Just give it time. And then, because the virus has shown us something that viruses do, it has mutated, there will be vaccines that are being brought to try and keep up with the rate at which this virus is actually mutated. Yes.
Let's take a break at this point. Our live stream is up. Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, as well as our website, spicefm.co.ke. Let's take a break at 6:15. We want to take a look at the weather, and then we will continue the conversation. Good morning. This is the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
This February, Sarit, your city brings you Seasons of Love. From the 4th to the 14th of February, explore and celebrate love at our new complex, where we shall have special activities for your loved ones and family, including a Valentine's Fair, Sana Art Display, couples photo booth, and love wheel. What's more, you can enjoy a variety of local and international retailers, restaurants, eateries, and entertainment facilities such as cinemas and a bowling alley for a fun and wholesome experience. Tune in to Spice Drive with Monique from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday for more information, plus the chance to win dinner vouchers at Sarit, your city.
Living with HIV is not a death sentence. Thanks to advances in medicine, HIV is now a manageable illness, with patients able to lead normal lives and raise families as they achieve their goals and their dreams. Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Monique, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday as we talk about HIV, why it's important to know your status, ways to protect yourself, how you can get tested, and how testing positive should not stop you from living a normal life. Courtesy of the National AIDS Control Council, NACC.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, so let's see how the day is going to look like in Nairobi. Currently at 17 degrees, it's going to rise to 24 on lows of 14. Mombasa, currently at 26, mostly clear day, rising to 33 and lows of 26. Kakamega, rising to 30 and lows of 18, mostly clear. Malindi is going to be a mostly clear day as well. 31 is a high and lows of 26. Kampala, Uganda, highs of 28 and lows of 21. Mostly a clear day. In Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, it's going to be mostly cloudy. 31 is the high and lows of 27. Johannesburg in South Africa, 26 are the highs and lows of 15. Another clear day. Another clear day as well in Lagos, Nigeria, at 34 is the highs and lows of 26. And Kinshasa in the DRC is another clear day as well. 33 and lows of 24. Now let's go to those places that are cold. Let's start with Beijing, China. Today, it's pretty warm. 8 degrees, but it's going to be a hazy day. Highs of 15 and lows of -2. In Paris, France, it's a clear day. There is snow and ice expected throughout the day today. 1 degree is the high and lows of -6. London in the UK, 0 and lows of -5. Another clear day. But in New York, it's going to be dropped to -6, currently at -1 degree. And the highest it's going to rise to is 1. Let's look at the weather in about 1 hour from now. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, so this is Kenya's biggest conversation. We want to see who is online now and acknowledge them and acknowledge their presence. So, let us see. Aizongesh says Wakondani. Kamau Anthony inside. Who else is this? Ngure David in Limuru, loud and clear. Bewa Macha, tuned in from, of course, Macha. Starbuck Steve, straight out of Soy. Soy, well tuned in and well represented. Thank you very much, Starbucks, for tuning in. Robert Mbogo, good morning from Mombasa. Cyrus Munga, good morning from Nanyuki, Laikipia County. Kamau Anthony, Power Combination, tuned in Kikuyu. Good morning to you. Weatherman Jeffrey in Minneapolis, good evening to you. Tirop Wilbur, good morning from Eldoret. I like the new Hurt logo for Spice FM. Ni mapenzi rafiki yangu, Tirop. Tamika Keen, mambo poa. You're in the USA. Alex Bogo, good morning. Welcome to. I welcome you to visit Nyeri one day. City. We have now those pending invitations to Nyeri.
We have quite a number, don't we? Then we must make good.
We should.
We should.
Tupange
twende.
Started with the deputy governor, now to the residents of Nyeri, saying, come to Nyeri. Lawrence Carrier, good morning, Lawrence. Good, happy Furahi Day to you. A warm welcome to Justice Will Mutunga. Yes, he'll be with us from 7 o'clock and listen to the discussion. Cyprian Maura, good morning, guys. Tune in from Nakuru, and good morning from Ghana, King Stanhope. Lovely day. Hello, lovely day. Good morning from the UAE. And McDonald also says, good morning, team. Nkobo Meru is listening. That is Nkobo Meru. Kipsi Maradi is in Kabrak University main campus. Kipsi Maradi in Kipsimamoto. Kipsi Maradi in Kipsimamoto. Kabarak University. Shurage Mwai, hamjambo wa kurugenzi. Ndio tunasubiri gari la moshi. Gari la moshi hapa kituo cha kahawa. Hii pambio Sitimuga ilikuwa inachanganywa na nyimbo kadhaa. Kweli kabisa.
Inaitwa pambio mix.
Inaitwa pambio mix. Ilikuwa inaongoza na nani?
Well,
worship leader.
Oh, yes.
The worship leader.
Ndio. Ili achangamshe watu
kabisa kabla hawajalishwa neno la siku. Bas, alafu watoe kitu kidogo. Faristo Muganda wa Ebubere Mumias. Good morning everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in. Happy Friday. Let's hear today's proverb from CT.
If the town's people are happy, look for the chief.
If the townspeople
are happy, look for the chief. Now think of the converse of this. If the townspeople are not happy, also look for the chief.
So either way, The chief is involved.
Either way, the buck stops with the
chief.
chief.
Okay. Let's look at the headlines.
Yes.
So, the Standard Health and Science Desk has gone all out today. Big time. Wamesema wachana na hii maneno. It is all a lie. The headline in the Standard this morning, Valentine's COVID-19 vaccine lie. The government first promised that the jab would be in Kenya by the second half of January. And some people believed. This then changed to a Valentine's Day gift promise. It's not in Valentine's, Mungoje. Now, internal government documents reveal that the state hopes to begin distributing the life-saving vaccine later in the year. It is covered in page 6 and page 7 of the Standard. Basically, they're saying Kenyans might have to wait for about a year to get the much-awaited COVID-19 vaccine. According to a draft Ministry of Health vaccination rollout plan, the first group will get a shot in the arm in the third quarter of the next financial year. The third quarter of the next financial year means from April 2022.
Yes, that's what it means.
That is the time the first group will get a shot in the arm.
You know,
Creating confusion as it contradicts the public. The third quarter is actually from January to March, right?
third quarter of the financial year.
Yes, it's
Yes.
January to March. And then
Financial year,
the
that's-
fourth quarter is now from April. Hey, according to the report, the ministry will take all hands-on-deck approach to vaccinate as many people as possible. But there has been contradictory information on the vaccine rollout plan, with Health Ministry's Director General Patrick Amoth saying the doses are expected to arrive in Kenya by the end of this month. He said, the next 2 weeks, then roll out shortly thereafter. Last month, the CAS for Health, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, said the first phase of the vaccine would be rolled out from mid-February to June, targeting 1.25 million Kenyans. She said the ministry had established a task force chaired by Dr. Willis Akhwale to oversee smooth introduction and deployment of the vaccines. In December, the Health CS, Dr. Mutahi Kagwe, had said the consignments of the vaccines were expected in the country in January. He said, we have ordered the vaccines and we have made it clear that there are protocols that we are going to use because those are for the first line workers. As on December 30th, 2020, Health PS Susan Muchache had said AstraZeneca was produced with Kenyan input and will be in the country by April this year. So, the date given by the DAG for Health, 1. CAS for Health, another. CS for Health, another. PS for Health, another.
You know, I sometimes wonder why these people complicate their lives.
Which people?
The people in the Ministry of Health. Okay?
Yes.
They are not the ones manufacturing the vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay? They place an order.
Yeah.
Now, they're placing an order.
And this one is coming, it's a COVAX order.
Yes.
Which is through the Africa
Yes,
CDC.
yes. And they have no control over that thing, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Now, look at the trend of ordering. You are ordering through that scheme when there are people, there are countries. The people who took the front line, there's China, there's UK, and then there's America. They even invested not only in the research, but in the production of this.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Then there is the EU that represents 27 countries. Now, they were a bit slow in placing their orders and getting involved in these processes. But where do you think you are going to come in line when the reality is even countries who had actually put their money where their mouth was cannot get all the drugs that they want at the time they want it? Yes, you may order. The only country that seems to have been able to do this is Canada.
Then they got their millions of doses.
Yes.
Very fast.
But if you look at the process that they followed, it's very different from ours.
How so?
If you have money and you can buy, the story is very different.
So they went and bought.
No, they made sure that they had ordered for these things in advance. There are those who are saying it might be risky because remember the time when they're ordering, you're not sure that this vaccine will actually work or not.
Yeah.
But they took that risk. Now, the EU, who it appears were more cautious, they were waiting for all the various phases of the drug trial to take place before they ordered. They've been caught napping because if you look at the way they're vaccinating, they're at 3%. Okay? America, UK, way ahead of that particular curve. You are talking about 17%. You're talking about people in the millions. Now, Kenya, who are waiting for a gift, because essentially that's what it is,
Yeah.
which poor people like ourselves, especially poor Banana Republic, third world countries, are waiting for. Okay? Where in that queue do you think you are going to fit in? I'm just asking a simple question. Where do you think? Is it priority? The answer is no.
No.
If the EU countries, and the EU, I mentioned EU because EU is part of this whole arrangement, if they themselves are still struggling to have enough vaccines for their own people, what on earth makes you think that they are going to give you a priority? They won't. It's not complicated. It's simple.
It's life.
Why don't we just tell our people, folks, the complexity of this virus, because the discussion globally right now is who gets what first, who did what when, which is going to work, that's the discussion. The vaccines are there. Is it going to work for people over the age of 65? We are not in that discussion at all. We are not there.
We're not featuring, basically.
We
are not
do
featuring
not
anywhere.
feature. Now, if our leaders could only tell our people and say, folks, given the way we go about these things, the earliest we expect to get the drug is April. So let's continue maintaining what is so difficult in that. There will be a hue and cry, but they'll say, you know something? It's April.
We're told the truth. Yeah.
It's April.
April onwards.
If you say that, as I said, there'll be a hue. Look, these things that are restricted, we're accustomed to curfews. It's become a way of life.
Yeah.
You even arrange your time with the curfew in mind as a background. You know, by 8 o'clock, if I'm somewhere socializing, I need to leave so that I get home by 9. You don't want to be caught on the road. What is so difficult about simply telling your people the truth? 1.2 million vaccines have been ordered. We have a population of 50 million.
Yeah.
So you 1.3.
2 million.
Forget that story. Just the truth. This is where we stand. And in the order of things, this is where we are likely to get it.
Yeah. This is when we are likely to get it, which is from June.
Yes.
Because this provisional rollout plan, which has been published here on the Standard, it says, so phase 1, the provisional plan was between January and June this year. The priority groups, frontline workers, these are health workers, community health workers, critical and essential workers, were to get 1.25 million people. Okay? So these are the ones to get the 2.5 million doses. And then phase 2, which comes in later next year, priority groups, persons below 18 years in congregate settings, hospitality and tourism industry. 4.9 million people get in phase 2. No, that's phase should be phase 3. Phase 2 should be priority group, persons above 50 and those above 18 years with comorbidities, about 9.76 million people also get this year. So the rest are to get next year.
Look, if that's a plan, it is okay. We have been living without the vaccine.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So if you tell us it is coming, but it'll come at this time, again, I'm saying it is okay, but say it. This confusion of tomorrow, the day after. No, actually, it came yesterday. No. Stop that story.
Everybody's saying their own things.
Stop that story.
Just say they'll come.
We have ordered. The earliest we think, we'll keep you updated, we think we will get it is end of April. Okay? If something changes and you get it at the end of February, then you'll say, something changed and we're getting it earlier than we thought. But this opaque way of speaking, I don't know who they're trying to please or what they think they're going to achieve with this. It's causing confusion. We are living without the vaccine as we speak.
We are okay. I mean, we're not okay, but we are
surviving.
We are surviving without vaccine.
As we speak. As we speak.
Yeah.
So just tell us the truth as you know it. Because Kenyans read, they also know, and they're wondering.
Yeah.
Countries that are able, countries that have the means, they also don't have enough. So, again, why are you giving us the impression that we are
we are up there because this thing was
there.
developed with the help of Kenya?
No. That story is a bit lame. These vaccines, for them to work, believe me, they'd help all over the world. And this Astra vaccine, the place where the majority of these drugs are being produced is actually in India. Okay? One of the things that vaccine producers had hoped would happen is that governments would have pre-invested in the vaccine production because this would have helped them increase their capacity.
Yeah.
That did not happen because people were still being cautious. So they're producing as best as they can at the rate that they best can. It's the reality. Number one. Number two, these are businesses. Yes, there was a combo of activities but businesses needed to at least balance their books and even out the cost of research and all. So this cheap vaccine, where do you think you're going to fall in?
Shaurieni mutaumia. Time for a break. 6:30. Okay, 29 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Let's see what's happening on the roads. Our sister Nduoko is on those roads that we're talking about. Okay, she'll be here.
Yes, and in that traffic that we keep talking about.
Yeah, she'll be here hopefully before 10.
We're practicing what we preach.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot fly.
Spice FM. Malindi.
So somebody who was in traffic on Thika Road took a photo about 10 minutes ago. Where? Okay. Traffic on Thika Road towards town. Okay, it's Friday. You're coming to town. You'll arrive on Friday. Thika Road inbound. Okay. And others are asking. So Mombasa Road from Mulolongo all the way to Limuru. Okay. Call that section, whatever you want to call it, Mombasa Road, Kisumu Road, Eldoret Road, Wayaki Way, Nakuru Road. That road, for the next couple of months, just get out of your house and you know that there are issues. There's construction happening, so it's going to be chaos. Gong Road into town, it's okay. Well, there have been issues with the Matatu crews. They are fighting over and over. I hope that today they'll not be back on the road, but it has been flowing so far. And then Jogoo Road into town is starting to build up at the usual spots around City Stadium roundabout into Landis Road, but it's going to be moving. So let's see what else is happening. Especially let us know how Wayaki Way is now with all the diversions because of the construction, and Mombasa Road as well, all the diversions because of the construction. But arrive alive. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM and online. In the room this morning, for now, is Eric Latif and CT Muga. Our sister Nduoko is on her way. CT, remember the time I told you we start that company?
Which one?
We register a company and then you started asking me questions. You behaved like European countries.
Company for doing what?
For doing things.
Ah, I see.
Now here is something that we could have done.
I've got you.
KEMSA has published an invitation for tender.
They have?
Yes.
That's good.
The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, on behalf of the Government of Kenya Ministry of Health, invites sealed tenders for a supply of ARV medicine for adults too.
Okay. It's good.
Apply by the 25th next week.
That's good.
This is because they've received this is from part of the Global Fund to fight HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
Yeah, so there's a tender for supplying to KEMSA.
Good stuff.
And this one has been published. They're following.
So that our names can appear in the paper.
No, we will do clean business.
Clean business.
Yeah.
My friend, one of the problems with doing business with the government is you may think you're doing clean business. It doesn't stop you from being reported adversely. By the time you've cleared your name, man, it has been it has been tarred and then some.
No one will see it getting cleared or clean.
No, as far as
Everybody
they're
will
concerned,
remember it being dirty.
that original accusation and what appeared,
That's
that
what
is what
sticks.
sticks.
Everything else is...
And if it is clear, there'll be an explanation, and the explanation will be adverse. They gave money.
Yes.
Because in the media, they know people.
Yeah.
That is why this happened. Now, something has happened which is of interest.
Right.
I'm not sure which comes first. The 5 I know is okay. Is it 5 judge bench or is it 5 bench judge? No,
Judge, bench.
Oh, judge.
The bench is
not
1.
5. The bench is 1.
The judges are 5.
Okay, in Mombasa, the judges are, hold your breath, Lydia Achode, Eric Ogola, Andrew Dimbrema, Joel Ngugi, and Pauline Nyamwea. They have overturned, the word used here is quashed, the government order that all cargo from the port of Mombasa be transported to Nairobi by train on the Southern Gauge Railway. And they have given the government 90 days to appeal the stay of execution or to even appeal against the judgment.
What?
KPA also has been given 90 days in which to start implementing this thing.
Okay.
Yes. So that government order, imeambiwa kakando.
Take a break.
Take a break.
Was it still in force even after the meeting? Remember there was a meeting between national government leadership and the county government of Mombasa leadership at Harambee House, which was chaired by Matiang'i, attended by Joho and others, where and even the transport CS, James Masharia. I think they'd come out and said, all right, so what we are doing is we are suspending that, or the suspension expired.
I heard the words relating to that, but that sector was not revived.
Okay.
Yes, that sector has still been limping. Just like the business of CFS is limping.
Okay.
Okay, there are those who argue that particular business was moved to Nairobi. And there are those who also argue that some of it was moved to Naivasha. Whatever else they may argue and put across, the court has given us a definitive position and said, excuse me, that order, out.
Out. Appeal in 90 days, let's hear what moves.
Yes, exactly. You have that opportunity. If not,
implement.
Yes, with immediate effect. So, there was jubilation, I'm told, and rejoicing at this. Yes.
That was nice. That was very nice. Ndu.
Yes.
So, how is Mombasa Road?
Don't go to Mombasa Road. You're planning on going to Mombasa Road today?
No. Among the plans I have, you see, I am on Mombasa Road as we speak.
Okay, like closer to Mombasa than you are here now.
Oh, so I should not move the direction of Mombasa. That's what you mean. If I am to go home, I actually have to begin my journey by pretending to move in that direction. Then take a detour and then head towards town. But nonetheless, I get the message.
Yeah.
The road is not user-friendly.
It's not user-friendly, not today.
This one where the Kenyan tells you,
where?
And you get the full message. That's a paragraph.
That where is actually not a paragraph, my friend.
Where?
Hey, it's a document. Where?
All the same, je suis ici, tout le monde. Ça va, ça va?
Ça va. Servers are all open.
You know, the language you speak, an interpretation is necessary.
And the language you hear.
Yes, but let me take a stab at it. Were you describing something you ate yesterday?
I was not, actually.
Yes.
I was describing my present state of being.
And you said it is?
Here. I am here.
So that's where the Lamont comes in.
That's where the Jesuits are.
The Jesuits and the servers. They're all here.
The Jesuits and the servers
are right here.
And Sava. Emba Sava. Welcome, Ndu.
Merci. Thank you.
Good. Now, the race for CJ seat on as the panel is set to vet the applicants. The Judicial Service Commission has constituted a 5-member panel selection to begin assessing 13 applicants seeking to fill the position of Chief Justice. They embarked on the process as the people wondered why top lawyers, legal scholars, and senior judges did not apply for the judicial position. It's widely thought that the current Supreme Court judges would top the list of those seeking the CJ's position, but none of them applied. Not the one, including even the acting CJ, DCJ Philomena Mwilu, Professor Makao Mutua, who was expected to make a second attempt at the position, tweeted that he declined to apply because of interference with judicial independence. Well, he should be coming to protect it. I have been asked why I didn't apply for the position of Chief Justice. After much reflection, I concluded that as the experience of the last 2 recent CJs strongly demonstrates, it is not possible to be both independent and an effective CJ in the Republic of Kenya. That is according to Professor Makao Mutua. And he says, for that reason, I was like, get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Why?
Really?
Why apply and then you're never even going to be allowed to do your job?
I don't understand what he means. I honestly don't.
Why?
If I look at the number of cases that our justice system, okay, has brought to fruition against the government, case in point, the one I just read, including, or should I say not excluding, our going back to an election, because the election we had in 2017, if that isn't independence, what is independence? If not calling out the president on the issue of the 41 judges is not independent, what is independence?
What other independence?
Yes. I mean, surely they're with such a high office, there are always limitations.
Yeah.
Because it's not as though you have a free run of and to do exactly what you like. No, you balance it with other powers, other institutions within your government who also have powers.
I think true independence, what they're looking for is when you're able to actually control the spend. If you control the purse, then truly you have all the power. But in this case, funding the judiciary, instituting more courts around the country, it needs money. And they're not able to make those decisions. So they say the ultimate independence is when you have complete power over how much you spend.
No, how much you receive. Because you have a
How
budget.
much you receive, yes.
You have a budget, and somehow somebody else decides what the budget should be all the time. And not only that, they also decide when you should get the money that you need.
Yeah.
So they stonewall you. So the very things that you think you're going to do.
Shauri yako.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
They've tapped you at the knee, so you can't actually move as well as you might want to move.
Probably. So let's see the team that has been set aside to vet these ones and see. So we've got key applicants here, 13 applicants. We've got lawyer Fred Ngatia, Justice Said Chitembwe, Professor Patricia Kameri-Mbote, legal scholar, lawyer Philip Murgor, who was a former director of prosecutions, Justice Martha Koome, and the president of the Court of Appeal, Justice William Ouko. My crystal ball tells me, based on various my algorithm is played around it. The next Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya is going to come from Luo Nyanza and is the current president of the Court of Appeal.
Okay.
Crystal ball.
Time
Justice
will tell.
William
Wait and see.
Ouko. And the other judge who is going to join the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya is going to be a woman.
From.
I need to look for a crystal ball.
It must be up to date with
will
technology
look.
such as algorithms.
I
It's
will
not
get
the
one.
ancient crystal
It's
ball
not
that's
using
sitting
it, you
in some
shaking
cobweb shack
things.
somewhere with a woman with 3 teeth looking into it.
But I
It's
thought the
got to be
cobwebs were
modern one.
fundamental to it functioning well.
That was
No,
the
this one has
algorithm then.
algorithms. This one
The
now
3
new.
teeth and the cobwebs or the former algorithm.
And long scraggly hair.
Exactly. That
Time
you
for
can
a
count.
break. Time for a break, and then we look at other headlines. It's a 6:45. Keep it right here. We're looking at more headlines. Remember, our guest host today from 7 o'clock is the former Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. Willie Mutunga. We'll be talking about transformative leadership, transformative politics, and what we need to move this country forward. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
Good morning to you, Victor. Victor
94.4.
Baringo County. So let's talk about Baringo County then.
It's not the only thing that seems to be locked, is it? Now?
Chaos Rock, Baringo County.
Yes.
as Homa Bay passes the referendum bill. So this is on page 8 of the Standard today. There was drama at the Baringo County Assembly yesterday as Homa Bay and Siaya, Homa Bay joined Siaya and Kisumu in passing the referendum bill. In Baringo, police lobbed tear gas canisters shortly after MCAs voted on the BBI initiative constitution amendment bill. Hell broke loose when Speaker David Karich was preparing to announce how members voted. Lights were switched off. Members scampered for safety as tear gas filled the chamber immediately after the results were announced. Karich declared that 30 out of 41 members had voted no to oppose the draft bill, while 11 had voted yes. One member was absent. The Assembly has 42 members. The House was sharply divided. This is not sharp. 30 out of 41. Sharply divided between members who wanted the document subjected to public participation and debate to proceed. Okay. The session took a 30-minute break after Kanu and Jubilee MCAs clashed. Cabinet Ward Rep Ernest Kibet was incensed by his Mogotio counterpart Charles Kosgei's contribution that was against the proposed draft and shot up from his seat to grab the microphone, but he was slapped.
Wow. So the chaos was external chaos or internal chaos?
Internally, external chaos.
Okay, and the difference would be?
No, it's because we saw that police lobbed tear gas later. Did they come to kind of disperse the drama that was going on? Because now, within the House of
They
Assembly...
lobbed tear gas inside the assembly.
Yes.
Have they lobbed tear gas against those matatu touts and drivers who have been causing mayhem on the road?
Sometimes.
No, recently.
As
This
in
one
the
on
day
Gong
before
Road.
yesterday.
Yes.
No.
I haven't read any report of what the police have done about this. Have you?
Nope.
No, but what we've seen is that there are good reports of a new entrant into the transport sector and that it should be embraced. So in terms of fighting against the warring sides, there was nothing like that.
Yeah, but it's causing a bit of a problem on that road. So it has been reported. Nonetheless, that aside, so there were issues. And so at the end of all the toing and froing and the slapping and the punch,
Police
and
came in
and the missed cakes and what have you. So
The Speaker announced that no had carried the day.
democracy at work. Yes.
So this becomes the first county assembly basically to vote no. Baringo,
Yes.
I think if you look at it now from the political lens, you can see the nuances here. When Baringo votes no, and you know the senator for Baringo and the position that he has taken going around the country campaigning for
For
this,
the
and is
BBI.
as the chair of Kanu, and then in his backyard, MCAs basically.
There's something about voters. And again, I am simply augmenting the view that I've had. This assumption that the voters are not intelligent, they don't know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing, and they can demarcate clearly. Yes, they may vote for you as senator, but doesn't mean that on other issues they're going to follow your bidding.
So they'll be
No,
with
no,
you
no.
everything.
It doesn't quite work that way. There are things on which they say, fine, we'll support this. It's okay, we agree with you. But the others, they will not. Remember, the BBI is at the heart of most people who are talking about it, listening. It's not about a referendum. It's about who will be president. And this regional desire to have a president come from your place is what we're seeing at play.
This is it.
Whether it's yes or no, believe me, it's what's at play. Or what we hope to gain, it's what we're going to be seeing playing out over and over and over again. Let's not get confused with any complexities. There are no complexities here. It is who do we think would be our president? And does our side stand a chance? Bas.
That's it.
That's it.
Bottom line. Okay. What's in the business?
You know what is really interesting today? The place where I get my papers, the guy gave me 2 Star newspapers instead of business.
Oh, really?
Why do you think I put that on there? So I have 2 Star newspapers. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with the 2. Read one line from this one, then read another line
See
from
if
the
it
other one.
correlates.
Yes.
Maybe he's trying to tell you something, CT. You know, nowadays things are not always the way they seem.
Okay. Then tell us about the headline in the Nation. There's one we haven't looked at.
Do you have 2 nations?
It's given 2.
Okay, headline in the Nation. Double pain for City Expressway. All right. Taxpayers are to foot the bill of relocating utilities and compensating people who will be displaced along the way and then cough up more cash each time they use the 27-kilometer road. The expressway begins at the African Inland Church in Mlolongo and terminates at the James Gishuru Road Junction in Westlands. So it looks at not only will you pay to use the road, but you will pay for those who will be displaced as a result of it. And things are moving quite quickly. In the mini budget before Parliament, the National Treasury has allocated 5.4 billion shillings for the Nairobi Expressway project being built by a subsidiary of the China Road and Bridge Construction, the company that built the Standard Gauge Railway. The allocation has raised fears of double taxation because Kenyans will also be required to pay the contractor to use the road once it's completed at toll stations. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuyo Tani said the allocation is meant for compensation and movement of utilities such as electricity installations on the road. The construction will see the relocation of a number of private properties, power cables, optical cables, water pipes, billboards and footbridges. He said there were many displacements that have come up as a result of the road construction. There are a number of people who will be displaced along the way. So the money is the cost of relocation of utilities and some degree of compensation for people who are going to be displaced along the way. So Treasury has set aside this money in terms of how it will be balanced out. It's looking like there are fears that it'll come from taxes.
So, where does Treasury get its money from?
So they get the money from anyway.
Yes.
So what is the issue?
Double taxation for Kenyans. They don't like it.
Eric, don't you like the way they presented this? Look, what they have said is absolutely true. I like the way the report. I can even like the way it's been presented. You see, the nuances are clear. Every time you have a project, the truth of the matter is whether we've borrowed the money, whether it is the money that the government has collected, it is you paying for it. Now, on this one, the nuance that is new is that if you want to use that road, you're going to be paying for it again.
Yes.
Every time the government talks about compensating people, whether they're expanding the road or it is the railway, whatever the case, there are always compensations. And where does the government get its money from? Because that's the discussion.
From us.
Precisely. So we pay for it anyway.
I think if I remember, from the very first time we talked, this project was announced, it was clear. So it's a PPP.
It is.
And the company that has been given the contract to build this, to operate it, and then to transfer it to us after, is it 23 or 25 years, was going to do its bit. And then the government was also mandated to do some things. For example,
yes,
if there is anything on this path, make sure that you remove it by the time I, as a contractor, get on the ground. Power lines, move. I need the road to pass here. If there's anybody who needs to move and they need to be compensated, you deal with them. So this comes in. I see the point where we are saying, so we are doing all that, and then this guy is given the road, he builds the road, then he'll be charging us. And on top of that, by the way, I have not seen anywhere where there's a conversation about lifting the fuel levy. Because there's a road maintenance levy whenever you buy a liter of petrol or diesel.
You pay.
You pay.
You pay a road maintenance levy, which is supposed now to be the one that maintains roads across the country, build and maintain roads. So if I'm paying a levy and I'm also getting onto this road and I'm paying, why?
This is the thing. Those are where the fears are
but
coming
it fits in nicely with what we've been hearing in the recent past. You see, the government has been very creative. Let me be specific. KRA has been very, very creative in finding new, better, newfangled ways of ensuring we pay taxes. Okay? Turnover tax, sleep across tax.
Minimum tax.
We are being taxed every which. Yes. How dare you make a loss? Taxation. Walking on the pavement, tax. The point
Short
is,
of breathing.
the trend has been seen. But if you were to be realistic, anytime you talk about a PPP, whether you talk about the urban renewal project and the government's quest for in the agenda for to bring in what you call low-cost housing, and you bring in private developers, the same story still applies. Yes. It's just that, having stated it, the same thing about communication, there should have been a clearer message, clearer, consistent message from the government that, look, this is what it's going to happen. Look, it may not be palatable. People may not even like it.
But you've told them.
But you've told them. They cannot now come and say, like we're saying now, that you didn't quite explain it in the detail we should have.
No.
Because now we can say we didn't know.
Haukusema, but Kenyans are very good at saying haukusema.
And you know something interesting? I've been looking at that, this new flyover highway thing. Okay?
The expressway.
The expressway.
Yes, okay. And I'm looking at the height. Man, there are people who are going to have cars passing by their windows.
Yes.
Actually, is that not environmental pollution? Noise pollution.
Move away from the road.
No, you know those houses preceded the building of this highway. What am I saying? I am saying that the need to ensure that people actually get to understand in detail. Just take your citizens a little more seriously and take the view that they will understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
When you give half-baked information, then you give room for people to come up with all manner of explanations. And usually it will be in the negative and it will not work in favor of the government. The government will not benefit from the perspectives that will come out of this. But when you say it, and that is the truth, time just proves you true.
Yeah.
Time lapses, we realize, no, but what the government said was this.
Actually, it was
But
true.
in our case, every time lapse said, hey, but I thought the government said this. And why is it this?
Okay. Final story before we go to the top of the hour. Which one do you want to do?
Gosh, which one not?
Let me just mention in passing.
You say.
In passing.
Right.
Okay, yesterday, there was, if I was Catholic, it would be a mass. If I was Anglican, I would
service.
Yes, exactly, for the late Simenye Chai. Yes, and it was attended by very many leaders of the country. Yes. So that is all I wanted to say.
So that was it. The Requiem Mass. When is the funeral going to be? Wajua tumekuwa tukitoa harambee.
Actually, if an SDA cannot be buried on Saturday, Friday or Sunday.
Okay.
Yes.
So
An SDA, Saturday, no.
Saturday, absolutely no way.
Saturday is a day of worship. You cannot have a funeral that day.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's going to happen in the next couple of days.
Yes.
The late Simeon Nyachai,
Yes.
who died a couple of days ago. So tributes were pouring yesterday on that. Right?
Galore.
Yeah,
Yes.
tributes galore. So keep it right here. Our guest host is in the studio and he'll be joining us for the next 2 hours. Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. He prefers to be called Willie, and that's what we'll be calling him. We'll be talking about a number of things in the country, what needs to happen in the country. Several things. Remember, a couple of days ago, there was something that was launched called Kongamano la Mageuzi, and he was a part of it. And there is the issue of what the middle class needs to do to think about this country going forward, what we all need to do to think about how we can then, to use the words of very many other people, rescue the country. The country needs to be rescued. And who is it that needs to get into the trenches? Some people just sit back and they're like, after everything has happened, they come out and they cheers. You know, it happened. You know, I was really, really impressed by the way people were fighting on the streets. Very good thing. That's the conversation for the next hour. Keep it right here. Good morning, 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your life.
All right, so it's looking really crazy already on Thika Road. We see heavy traffic and it starts all the way far back as KCA University, and it's quite early. The Thika Road rush hour has paused. There's no more rush because it's bumper to bumper. Mombasa Road is also moving very slowly today, all the way from the SGR, heading out then towards General Motors, slows down quite some. Then around Airtel, on towards Bellevue. Very, very slow this morning, guys. It is Friday, and we know that folks are leaving the city. All right, for everybody in Westlands, headed out in that direction as you're trying to go towards Kangami, that diversion is still there, so you need to prepare for that. Now, your go-to road every day, Wangari Maathai Road, there's an accident there today, so you will not be able to use that right now. Traffic has already started to build up there. So, it's a typical Friday morning. There's traffic everywhere you look. We'll take a look at other parts of the city. But for now, tell us what you might see in case of where you might be stuck. Spice of MKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
Minutes
day.
after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the second hour of the show. We broadcast the show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. For the next 2 hours, we are live on KTN Home as well as being live on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. spicefm.co.ke is our website, and Spice FM across the country. We begin the hour every hour with the day's proverb from C.T. Muga.
If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief.
If the townspeople are happy,
Look for the chief.
look for the chief.
Yes, conversely, if they're not happy,
Also look for the
also
chief.
look for the chief.
Could also be because the chief has left and the people are happy.
And so they have to look for him.
Finally, we can enjoy our time. He's gone.
Yes.
Or it could be has assured that there is peace and there is happiness.
Oh, yes, he knows what he's doing. So I guess we are asking, what is it that makes people happy?
Yeah.
What are the sources of happiness? You know, this issue of happiness, we've discussed it here before. But if you look at universities across the world and some of the more renowned universities, some of the courses that have gained traction and have even the largest number of people applying for courses that relate to happiness. What it constitutes, what it is. It's like people have realized that, something, at the end of the day, all these things that we pursue are all good and well, but we are all trying to do these things so that we can be happy. And oftentimes we actually get there we are not happy. So why don't we just change this thing and figure out, okay, let's study this concept of happiness and figure out how can we be happy and then pursue the other things
Then
as
go
well.
back
Yeah,
now.
Yes.
Okay. Let's introduce our guest host, and this is Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice, first President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, founder of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, very many other accolades, Karibu to the studio.
Thanks.
And welcome to the Situation Room. Now you're here. Previously, we've spoken to you when you're there. This is the hot seat, but because you're our guest host, it's just moderately warm. Moderately warm. What do you make of that proverb? When townspeople are happy, look for the chief.
I've never heard of it. Sounds very religious. Yeah.
It's actually a Liberian proverb.
It's Liberian.
It's a Liberian proverb.
It's a Liberian proverb.
Yeah, because religion basically is about that abstract happiness. They tell us about a land of milk and honey, and we need not worry about happiness here. And it's so my take was, what are the struggles around that vision of happiness? Because there are very many narratives, religious ones, the others that are material. A lot of the systems in this world talk about happiness, whether it's capitalism, whether it's socialism. It's that seems to be an issue of challenge, which is, I think, is always a good thing to have a planet where people have a focus on some particular ideal.
Yeah.
And happiness is a great thing.
It is, and it seems to be the one thing that human beings are always seeking and pursuing,
Yes.
and oddly enough, never quite getting it.
Yeah, maybe why we don't get it becomes very, very, very important to interrogate.
Yes.
What is it that,
Makes happiness so elusive.
yes, why is the world so, why is the world not equal? Why is it that there are some people have, happiness for them is a given, and the others struggle, to get it. Why is it that the resources are not equitably distributed? Why is it that some people sleep hungry, others? Those are all ingredients of happiness. Because if you are sick, you can't be happy.
No.
And if there is no universal health care, all these issues. So I think that proverb is really profound once you interrogate it and problematize it. Yeah.
You get into it.
Yeah.
Willie, you are past 70. I've got to remember that you actually retired from the judiciary because you had attained that age.
I was 69.
Now, look at you, man.
This is because I don't have any public service viruses. So.
Touche.
Public service is very stressful.
Right.
He pursued happiness.
Yeah, right.
This was it.
He pursued
happiness.
Yes.
In the journey to get to where you are, Willie, you've done many things in pursuit of not only your own happiness, but in happiness of others as well. From the days when you got into civil society, agitating for changing the constitution, believing that there could be better ideals in governance and how things are done in the country. Even I believe when you applied to be the first Chief Justice under the current constitution, it's because you believe that there's something that can be done better. There's a better way of doing things. If you look back at the Willie Mutunga of the 80s in the university, the 70s, right, as a lecturer,
Yeah.
and the country as it has progressed so far, how would you rate us? Have we moved closer to your ideals, or are we still stuck to what you were looking at when you were in Dar es Salaam studying law and you're thinking, this country of mine? Have we
Yeah, well,
moved?
that's a great question. My answer is that, we've made progress. Because I think in this country, people don't really look at the small gains that are made. People don't look at, we don't glorify resistance. Because there is always some resistance that is happening. In the 70s, in the university, it was academic freedom, where the university basically resisted Moi's idea of what should be taught and, the books that should be in the library and in the bookshop. And that's the heart of our university. So, we resisted. And when you look at that trajectory of resistance, whether it's the 7 bearded sisters, in Kano government, whether it's the university, whether it's the Mwakenya, underground, whether it's the second liberation, that is progress. Because we were still, when you look at that trajectory, it was a struggle against dictatorship, particularly the Kanu Moi or Kanu Jomo dictatorships. And I think that's something that we've not looked at. That Kenyans are always organizing, always resisting something that they don't like. And that narrative is always dominated by this other very vicious narrative of politics of division. Where you have 5 communities that control the over 70% of the vote, and since 1963, they have continued to basically tell us that leaders will come from, those 5 communities. Recently the president said very cleverly, I think it's high time, we have a president from another community. And so, Kenyans are debating that. Which one? Is it the Kamba one? Is it the Luya one? Is it the Luo one?
But it's one of the 5.
It's one of the 5. And that is very, very, problematic, because politics of division, once established, become really a disease. The fact that every community seeks for a king. Okay. That's what the Kambas call Kalonzo Musyoka. Musumbi means a king.
Mudhama doesn't get to be called king?
No.
Not yet?
No, because you see, among my community, I think that crown is always up in the air. It's not like the other 3, the 3 dominant ones, the Kikuyus and Kalenjins and the Luos. There is some stability there when the barons are very, very powerful with their narratives. But I think the Luyas and the Kambas, even historically, have been in all over the place. So that crown in Ukambani, it's always shifty. Even Gay didn't hold it tightly. Mutisa did not. Kalonzo hasn't, because there are other people now who are actually vying, for it. But I always say that it's very, very, very dangerous to underestimate the politics of division and the people behind it. A lot of intellectuals tend to basically underestimate the intelligence, the genius of politics or division and also deviation. How you start with handshake, you go to BBI, and after BBI you go. So we are engaged constantly, with stuff that is not useful for this country. And yet it captures, our imagination. And so for me, I normally focus on what makes prophet or war have that kind of following. Where he goes to Nakuru and people are washing the streets for him. For heaven's sake, Jesus did not even get that kind of attention. It's only Mary Magdalene who washed his feet with some perfume. But this guy, and it's you just have to, in particular for alternative political leaderships, they have to know how they'll crack that. And I don't think abuses that you find with a lot of intellectuals, they don't crack it. You can't abuse the individual, without taking into account the followers, because the followers become very, very angry.
In fact, could one argue that they become even more angry than the person who's actually being abused?
That's right. Yes. Yes, the person who is abused, will not do anything. But you attack, Baba directly,
Baba will keep quiet, but...
Yeah, but you people need to focus on his politics and convince the followers that he hasn't done anything for them. Nothing. And the politics of issues in this country haven't really captured the imagination of people. I think coronavirus has given us a chance. It's a very great opening. If Raila was still in the opposition, he would have taken it up, in a big way. you know.
He'd have capitalized on it.
Yeah, because he's a brilliant mobilizer and organizer. There's no doubt about that. You know, I've worked with him. I've seen him in action. So he is just like his father. He's very, very, very good in that space. But when the opposition joins the government, then you have a dictatorship.
Would you say that that is the terrain that is probably new to Raila? Because I wouldn't say it's new because it happened in the Moi era.
Yeah.
But would you say that what you're referring to as joining the government is it's like a change of narrative from what people associate with someone like Raila Odinga?
Yeah, you know, I have always thought that I'll meet Raila and ask him, you know, what he's doing in government. Because I always, there's some, you know, I always think that he has a plan. He doesn't get into, you know, alliances.
Without a plan.
Without a plan. And I don't know what that, you know, plan is. But it's obviously a different terrain for him. And I don't, you know, of course, a lot of his followers are very angry when we attack him.
Why not angry? Furious.
They are furious, but what they don't understand is that we operating from a position where we think we've lost. That, you know, that we've lost a leader. I mean, the opposition in any country is important. And if there is a vacuum,
but
it's no stability. And I think I once wrote about that vacuum and about handshakes historically from, you know, 63.
Yes.
And Raila's Dennis Onyango, he said, oh, if there's a vacuum in the opposition, you go and occupy it. He was just rude because I don't have the capacity to go and replace Raila. It's not that easy. It's something that even the young people can create. We'll have to develop over, you know, a period of time.
But there's a question that comes to mind when you say that people may not see that he has not given them anything. Maybe the question I would ask is, what do you think they have been given? Because clearly, people don't follow blindly. There's a reason why they follow.
So according to them, there's something they're getting.
Yes, there is something they are getting. And what is it? And it doesn't just apply to, yes, Raila Odinga. It applies to any leader.
All leaders.
Ask yourself, in this country, when people coalesce against, let's talk about the top leaders, whether it is Mudavadi, whether it is Kalonzo, whether it is Ruto. What is it that they feel, because there's something they're getting?
By being in those positions.
Yes, and I'm not talking about money. What are they getting?
It's just like, what do people get from church? What do people get from witch doctors?
Hope.
Hope, inspiration.
Yes, hope. It's important, you know, inspiration. Somebody like Raila's trajectory of fighting against oppression. That history is important. You know, that people see that history, you know, the imprisonment, you know. And that's why the trajectory of a politician is something that you have to, you can't pick it in bits and pieces.
No, you have to look at the whole trajectory.
You have to look at the whole trajectory. And you see, a lot of people are probably frozen in that, you know, very courageous, very, very, very struggle that he was engaged in. You know, there are people, you know, people who are there. And it's I can relate to that. I can tell you that one of the things I remember about Jaramogi Odinga, during the height of Moi's dictatorship, you know, very, very, very serious dictatorship,
Jaramogi
was the only person who could actually challenge Moi.
Directly.
directly, because they detained him, they put him in house arrest,
He was
and the house
afraid of
arrest
nothing
is
at some
due.
point, yeah.
Okay, so I remember when the university was under attack, and we were all running, we were waiting to be detained and so forth. Jaramogi somewhere in Bondo, in his shrill voice, he said, Moi! And he said, Moi, you don't have a title deed to this country. And where we were, we were actually encouraged. It's like a resurrection, of some hope, that what you are talking about. And somebody like Raila has given a lot of people hope in that way. And that's important.
Do you think then that hope has been eroded now that you say he's, he has left the opposition and joined hands with government, forming a quasi-dictatorship or maybe a full-out dictatorship? So has that hope been eroded?
Well, it's being eroded, but you have to look also at that from a class perspective. It's eroded, with intellectuals, the middle classes that basically didn't want this to happen, because even us as middle classes, we're feeling the pinch of what's going on. But what about the other people who still hope that is looking into something? And it might happen.
But let me ask this question.
Yeah.
The narrative that was presented with the handshake was that they wanted to bring about stability. Does that narrative really hold water?
Yeah, it doesn't, but he's not being attacked. He's not being interrogated. It's a political narrative. And that's why alternatives to mega narratives are very, very, very important. Because if intellectuals or civil society activists are talking about those issues and criticizing it, as long as they are not contesting for political power, because that's the crux of the matter. Okay, it's not challenged. It's not challenged yet.
But was there a crisis? Was there a situation in the country that could be explained, or that the handshake could help explain? As in, were we in some tumultuous times? Were we in constant friction with each other so that the handshake could be justified?
Yes, so it's fundamentally political. I think when you go back to January 30th, and Raila is sworn in as the people's president.
Yes.
Okay? And you saw that bit yourself. That's what I call, brilliant organizing, because you realize that the country is angry about something. Okay? And you basically tell the country, well, we haven't captured state power. We are not in state house. But there is something called the people's president. Okay? Which was actually his father. Okay, because Odinga was the people's president. He didn't, end up in state house. There are people who don't rule but reign. Okay, they are there, but they are very, very powerful, and that's Raila in some way. So, a people's president, what happened. I think Uhuru was very, very, very smart. In terms of, I think he's the one who benefited
bridging the
more.
gap.
Yeah, because that thing was building. And I don't think Jubilee would have survived that year if
it continued that way.
If that movement.
Let's take a break at this point.
Yeah.
We are having a conversation this morning about alternative leadership, transformative movements, and their leadership. Our guest host for the next 2 hours is Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice of the Republic, first President of the Supreme Court, very many other things. But at this particular point, a citizen who is woke and who is really active on issues of leadership and governance. 25 minutes after 7, we are live on Spice FM, on KTN Home and online. We will be back shortly.
Did you know that knowing your HIV status is simple? You can visit your nearest health center where you will be tested for free, or you can test yourself using the self-kits sold at chemists for 500 shillings only. If you test HIV positive, don't fear, because there is medication that will allow you to live your normal life. You will also be counseled on how to live with HIV and fulfill your life goals or dreams. Knowing your HIV status as a parent is beneficial for yourself and your loved ones. Expectant mothers with HIV, did you know it's possible to deliver a healthy, uninfected baby? Visit a health facility near you during your antenatal visits to get proper information, advice, and treatment for HIV. HIV treatment can improve your overall health and can protect an unborn baby from contracting HIV before, during delivery, and after birth. We must not exclude or discriminate against our HIV-positive counterparts, because living with the virus is not a curse. Follow the Ministry of Health's instructions to protect ourselves from HIV and also to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Do you know your status? This message has been brought to you by the National AIDS Control Council.
Are you looking for the perfect Valentine's date? Tune into the Spice Drive with me, Monique, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday this February to learn about the Civic, your city's Seasons of Love, their new complex, and also stand the chance to win gift vouchers at Sarit, your city.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, it's drizzling in most parts of Nairobi this morning. Mostly cloudy conditions for most parts of today. We're looking at highs of 24. We'll see highs of 24 in Nyeri as well, where it's partly cloudy at 14. This Friday, partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru. 17 degrees at the moment, going to highs of 26. 24 will be the high in Eldoret. Clear skies, however, at 14. Clear conditions also in Kisumu at 19, going to highs of 30. 30 will also be the high in Kakamega, 17 degrees and most clear now. It's also clear in Mombasa, highs of 33 and lows of 26. Mostly clear conditions in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. We're looking at Kampala, it's mostly clear. We'll go to highs of 28 this Friday. 31 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's mostly cloudy at 27. 17 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 15. Clear conditions for Lagos today. Warm highs of 34 and lows of 26. And Kinshasa is clear this morning at 25 with a chance of rain later. Highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
All right, so Thika Road traffic starts thick from the Roy Sambu roundabout, packed to the rafters, even on the service lanes, we're told. So this one, you're going to have to sit through it, guys. The service lanes, the main highway, absolutely packed, bumper-to-bumper situations in most parts. We're also looking at heavy traffic on Mombasa Road, heading to the city, and some traffic inbound as well. So, let's look at Kiambu Road, where that's a mess. Many lanes and trying to get to Muthaiga Square this morning. So it looks like even the service lanes that you could have used before, you can't use now. The Pangani Tunnel building up quite some. There's been an accident on Wangari Maathai Road this morning, so that would have been used as an option, but not right now. Wait for that to be sorted out, and then you can use it. Landis Road, coming from Jogo Road, is packed as well, getting into the CBD. So everywhere you look this morning, there is some traffic. We're going to have some patience and some, level of being careful. Spice FMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Half
Spice
past 7.
FM,
This is Kenya's
Nairobi.
biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home, online. In the room is Eric Latif Nduoko and CT Muga, and our guest host today is Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice. We're having a conversation about, transformative leadership and transformative movements and their leadership.
Willie, you've written quite a number of things in the recent past. And, on one of the articles that you wrote, you talked about the country being in need of rescuing. A political awakening needs to take place. And I'm looking at that against what we've just been talking about a few minutes ago, where you talk about a hope eroded by people who looked at a leader who was in the opposition to bring about some kind of change, or at least some kind of pricking of conscience. Now, if at the same time we need this awakening in the country, you need this political awakening, if you see that the one who could have done it before, could have helped, is now on the other side of things, how would this rescue come about? Who now would be responsible?
We just have to imagine, as I was saying, and I think this is for me the main issue in 2022. Whether there's going to be some leadership that captures the imagination of Kenyans, that this narrative, by the barons, which has been there since 1963, can be changed. Where you can move from politics of division to politics of humanity and issues. If there is a leadership that can capture that, okay, I don't think that leadership will win, but Kenya has had waves, political waves, when a message moves from the margins to the center very, very, very quickly. It happened with the NAC, for example. But that was a different context because of the Moi dictatorship. So, and there had been almost a decade of what was called the second liberation, where people were pushing and so forth. So I don't know whether, we have that wave. But I think we took 68 years to fight colonialism. And we took almost 40 decades to fight for the Constitution. So it looks like we have a culture of incremental, resistance, or movements that are built slowly, and they move from the margins to the center after a while. But that a lot of people don't want to hear that. The people I work with, even the young people, they basically think that within 2 years
They want it now.
Okay, you can do it. It's hard work, and when John the Baptist talked about the lone voice in the wilderness. When you look at Jesus Christ or even Muhammad, and you study, their message, it didn't catch fire until they were out of the scene.
Right.
Yeah. Muhammad's work was around Mecca.
Yeah.
It's after he died that the message moves to Baghdad and every other place.
Yeah.
So the young people here who are involved in social justice centers, who are involved in movements like Decolonize, in Lamu, Save Lamu, in Turkana, you have people like Ikawa Ingla with the Friends of Lake Turkana.
Yeah.
So there are movements there, of young people. The artists, it's a big one when you look at the songs that are coming up, the poets, graffiti artists. There is a lot of stuff that is going on there, but it has to be coordinated. It has to be politicized in the sense that they need to know what kind of Kenya they are critiquing. because we are very good at critiquing, but when it comes to solutions, then when you want to tell people this is the kind of future that you can have, okay, you have also to look at the contra narratives, whether they are religious, whether they are cultural, because they're always there. There are some people who basically, believe that the greatest happiness is in heaven. So there's nothing like heaven on earth, and they don't want it. So it's a tall order, and that's why it has to be created with a specific message of change. Even Professor who I mentioned, and who intrigues me, it's where did he come from, and why is he so dominant? So even for the young people, the leaders that are going to challenge the status quo, they have to think about that very, 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 very seriously.
Are Kenyans ready? I keep asking this question. We will talk, because you also talk about the fourth liberation, and saying it's about that time where these winds of change have to blow in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Are Kenyans ready to go along with that? It would seem as if they've been, Kenyans have been coddled for the longest time by this narrative that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I am the leader, I am the one who will show you. And the things that I say are the ones then that you must believe it because you're following me, right?
Yeah.
So are Kenyans ready to break away from that comfort
I think
that we need something new?
Yeah, I think they are, but it takes, as in other movements, in other, history records that, when you look at the Kenyan situation, for example, before Mau Mau happened, okay, there was a lot of anger against colonialism. Okay, whether it's education, whether it's Kenyatta being sent to UK to fight for land and protect female genital mutilation, for example, and other stuff. It's that what I find we don't track is that trajectory of resistance, and the leaders have to track that to be able to see when they can strike. Okay, and that is a gift that is a political gift that some people have, in this country, all right? And that's where leadership comes from, because it's a whole question of knowing. If you study Raila or you study Moi and others, you realize that there was that genius of cracking, as you say, the populace, so that the populace can listen,
right,
to a different message. It could be an act of God, I don't know, but it's unless that happens, and then it's coupled with the contestation for political power, because political power is the key thing. It's once you get into power, you control resources, you control people, you are the engine of progress and so forth. So I think Kenyans face a lot of narratives every day. Religion is very, very, very strong. In this,
it's even used by some leaders to. It's used by some leaders to even maybe blind, quote unquote, Kenyans a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if you come out as a leader and say, I believe in this particular religion, I believe that this is what is going to take us this way, then you find Kenyans adhering to that and saying, oh, okay, hold on. We believe in this too, and maybe
we
follow
associate.
this person. We associate. So we listen to everything else they say by virtue of that.
And they have the resources. They have the resources. What did Hitler teach us? Hitler taught us that you've got to have a message. You repeat it every day, even if it's a lie, until it becomes truth. And so, even those who are going to challenge the status quo, they have to look at all these aspects you're mentioning. There is always an interaction between religion and politics, you know.
Right.
And it's very strong. Once you're hit by both, okay, you know, because religion is, if you say what Marx said, it's opium of the people, then we get it 24/7. Every day, you're getting a dose of
the opium,
banky, cocaine, you know, and so forth, and that's what has to be unraveled. And when I tell civil society groups, when I meet them and I say, what are you doing about this space occupied by religious leaders? Isn't there a possibility of having some kind of a shrine or a church that comes with counter narratives? People just think that that's a bad idea. You know,
so it's not possible to have a religion that is against that thing that you're getting people to believe. I mean, from what you're saying, it seems that the religion that you have always goes along with your position. It can't be that there would be a religion that Kenyans would believe in, for example, that would go against the popular narrative at that point. That would be the question. Why not?
Yeah, it can happen because the Bible can be interpreted institutionally. If you had a church that interprets the Bible to glorify Jesus Christ, for example, on a daily basis. What Jesus did, you know, opposing the scribes, the Pharisees, and in some way the domination by the Romans, okay, the who love, you know, for you know the poor, mobilizing the poor, you know, and Muhammad has the same story. Buddha will have the same story, and those are all religions, right? But I watch a lot of services on Sunday. A lot of them, they still stuck in the Old Testament, which is it's very, very, very problematic when you look at people talking about Israel, you know, in a context that it doesn't appeal to the people here. They don't touch leaderships at all. Okay, they can talk about a great prophet, but that prophet will never be related
to current leadership.
Right. So is Kenya stuck in the Old Testament of tribalism?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So even those areas where activists thought that there are no-go areas. I've met a lot of activists who are great preachers, by the way. They have read the Bible backwards. They sing. They can preach. It's just a question of people knowing that there are major narratives that need to be not really challenged, but you need to engage. With them.
I hear what you're saying, and I think I get the point here. Recognizing the strength of religion on the people, recognizing the need for alternative narratives that need to come, and then for all these other movements, the transformative movements, the civil societies and the social justice forums, seeing how then they can link between what people believe in religiously and then bring up this new narrative. And when you tell them and they just don't get it, what is the pushback? What do they say? That people will not believe a new narrative, or that it's too much work, or I don't want to associate myself with the religion, or I maybe they are so religious themselves that they feel if I start now using religion to manipulate the people, then I'll be committing sin.
Yeah, I think that probably you have hit the nail on the head. Is probably that last point, because faith is something that is strong, and you might be very, very, very intelligent, but when it comes to that particular aspect of faith, you might not even want to challenge or query it. Okay, and the people might might see it that way. There's a group, I don't know whether you know of it, the Atheists of Kenya. There's a guy called Harrison Mumia, and I always debate him because he, his narrative, it's not persuasive because you need to respect other faiths, and then you engage them, and then they can listen to you. But the moment you and it's just like the barons, the moment you start abusing them, nobody, their followers don't listen to you.
Right.
So the moment you say, there's no God, there are a lot of people who are very upset, very, 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 very upset because that's their faith. But you can, you can get to talk to them through Desmond Tutu, for example, who is a great theologian who basically says we all created by God, whether we are atheists, whether we are this or the other. Okay, we're God creations, and nobody owns God, and nobody can be an agent of God, and so forth. So there is a theology that the atheists can use, and everybody else who thinks that they are discriminated against. You can even use the Constitution, which allows you freedom of thought, conscience, religion, and that means freedom of religion. It also means that the freedom not to believe in any particular religion.
Yeah.
But when it's abstract, and when you don't take into account that there are some people who support certain positions, and you need to persuade them over a period of time. It could take 20 years, it could take more. Yeah, it could. It's even the British in their religion, they never succeeded.
When you're talking about behavior change intervention, it always takes time.
Yes.
But if I take the view that you have alluded to, in that we are a religious people, so essentially it means that we subscribe to a theocracy.
Yes.
A theocracy is not democratic.
No.
So would I then say that the mindset of the people of Kenya is already predisposed to actually listening and obeying what their chosen leaders say without questioning it too much?
Yeah, I think I can, you can say that. But then when you look at, religion in Kenya, right?
Yes.
It's not homogeneous.
No, it isn't.
And there are always pockets of resisting the mainstream religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can track it through people like Kagia, Dinia Kagia, the great guy from Western.
Dinia Msambwa.
Yes.
Elijah Masinde.
Yes. Okay. And there are a lot of people in this country who go to church on Sunday, and at night they are pouring libations to their ancestors.
Right.
Yes.
Not even at late at night.
Okay. There are a lot of
that dichotomy exists.
There are a lot of people who go to church wearing, stuff that they have been given by witch doctors. That has been our culture. All right.
Yes.
It's and the culture is fights back.
But really, if you look at the pockets of resistance, it is not to escape what they may call as an overpowering administration, but it's to create their own overpowering administration. Because think of any of these splinter groups. Just take your pick. The leaders splint, and what do they have? They become the boss?
Of course.
And at the beginning, and at the end, and at the last word. So, essentially, they simply want to duplicate what they claim to be running away from.
But with them at the helm.
With them at the helm as opposed to somebody else.
Do you have an example of that?
Oh, in fact, as you're mentioning, like in Elijah Masinde, I was thinking of, say, something like Legio Maria, who have their own pope. I come from a region of the country where almost every other village has their brand of some Pentecostal form. Some here wear yellow, some wear red. Really lovely garments if you look at them.
Yep.
Lovely overflowing garments. Now, the real centerpiece is the hats they wear. Some are pointed up. It reminds you of the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow.
So some are, but they are all religions and they're splinter. And as I said, think, even if you look at the African traditional religions, there was always someone who was at the helm. And looking at the narrative of a theocracy, they were the man of God or the man of whoever, but they're the person the people listened to. Yes. If you take the view, for instance, now of our so-called established churches, where you find there's a lot of, yes, they have, not pockets, sometimes it's just outright resistance. I remember something that was in the papers, it was quite a while back, over 10 years ago, of a church that had a disagreement in the Buruburu area.
Yeah, I remember that.
I find it fascinating because...
They went to court, I think.
They went to court, but there's one group that I think provided a solution that was permanent. Yes. When Sunday came, the church didn't exist. They razed it to the ground. Meaning they didn't burn it, but they broke it down, so it didn't exist.
Yeah, there are some of those struggles that are financial and monetary.
You've gotten to the heart of the matter. Now, this is where I was going with my discourse. I was saying that if you look at what happens within our religious organizations, it mirrors very closely what happens in the political realm.
Yes.
So it is not difficult for a politician to actually create a narrative based on the same narrative that they know exists in churches, okay, and get followers. It is not difficult.
That's right.
Yes,
that's
It's
right.
like they're at
and
home.
I agree with you that is a message that has to go out to people who are fighting about change, and not underestimate, the peasants who becomes the head of Reggio Maria, and basically say, they are either not educated and so forth. And they are great mobilizers.
Yes,
and they are getting money.
They are powerful.
The artists have to convince Kenyans that when they pay sadaka, they can get a bit of that sadaka as well for change.
Yeah.
Okay, and to do that, it takes a lot of work. When you look at the human rights movement, for example, which I was involved in, it still doesn't have presence at the grassroots. Okay? And what the church is, when we talk about missionaries, where are the pastors?
Grassroots.
Where are the priests? They don't leave that space.
They live in the community.
Yeah. So even in terms of change, unless you go to those churches which you're talking about everywhere, and you just find out what's happening, you can even join them to understand, what is happening, instead of this lazy intellectualism where you just dismiss it, and you basically say, this it's abstract stuff. You've got to go there, and even my notion of having an alternative shrine, that has counter narratives, has to be in those positions, in those places, and there is money.
Yeah.
There's money. Okoti Bitek, who taught in the university when I was a young lecturer there, he asked me once, he's a very anti-religion, because when you read his books, he satirizes.
Yeah,
it's actually anti-Christianity.
Yes, anti-Christianity. So he asked me, just as a young lecturer in the senior common room, have you ever seen a bishop who is not fat? So, just out of the blue.
Right.
And so I said, yes, but I know some who are slender, and so forth. And then he said, what about their faces? You know, are their faces as smooth as a baby's bottom? And so I asked him, what is this all about?
Where are you heading with this?
Where are you heading to? And so he told me religion is very powerful. Okay, don't underestimate, you know, people, you know, you've got to first of all look at their strength. Okay, why is it that they have a following?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you and how do you get their followers to follow you?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not just a question of thinking. It's also the question of living with the people, understanding them. It's not even the issue of resources, because in the 50s, when the first election took place, 1957, people who are elected didn't have any money. They didn't.
They were actually doing a job.
That's right. If you read this book of Morton, the one he wrote on Moi, how Moi was picked, the communities picked them.
Yes.
Yeah. The communities would pick you. They would call you and say, you know,
we have decided.
We have decided you are the ones.
Represent us.
You speak English. The British have given us hell.
Willie, just hold that thought and you'll continue with this train of thought. But we just want to take a break on KTN Home, and the conversation continues on Spice FM. We are live streaming online as well. We are on KTN Home. We are on Spice FM. Our guest host today is Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice. Keep it right here. The conversation continues.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice 87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
Yep. So communities would identify people and they say that you are the one who's going to be our leader.
Yes. And in 1957, I was in Standard 4. I remember that election very well. Because even as kids, we were involved in it. It's just like the euphoria of second liberation, the euphoria of independence for us in Kitui, where colonial apartheid was there. I mean, where the Wazungus lived, we couldn't go there. You know, we didn't go there. There was, you know, colonial discrimination and so forth. So you have these Africans who had gone to Makerere, or they were school teachers. And in 57, you know, the election happens. And a lot of those people were just picked. And they were given money. Those who didn't have trousers, had the trousers bought. And some got cars. People forget that in 1961, when Kenyatta came out of prison, and I was in Standard 8, I remember that very, very clearly. All the Kapenguria 6 guys had Mercedes-Benz bought for them.
Where?
The registration numbers were KHA 1 to KHA 1 to 6.
So it didn't start this last week with giving vehicles.
No, the point I'm making is the people who gave them these gifts. So that we used to call that Kenyatta home again. This is 61. People contributing. Even the airlifts, even when Kenyatta went to the UK.
It was actually the citizens contributing this time.
Yeah, right. It's the one that, the citizens. And Ngei, who was part of the Kapenguria 6, the campers also, you know, contributed so that they could build a house for him. Gatundu House was built by people where Kenyatta was. Okay, so there was a lot of giving. The politics of representatives, where you didn't have to.
Actually, you could even give the Kenyatta going to the UK. It's people who contributed for him to
send
go.
him.
Yes, they sent him
to go and represent us.
They sent him, and they kept on sending the money. It's not that
for upkeep.
It's not that they stopped.
Right.
Okay, and you know, there's the KCA
Kikuyu Central Association. Yes.
He was writing the
Mugidani.
the minutes
Yes.
and all manner of things. And there are stories that Kenyatta had great love for whiskey, and natives had to run around and get whiskies from various centers.
It's 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic. We continue the conversation. We're having a conversation with our guest host this morning, Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice. In the next hour, we continue with this conversation, looking at alternative political leadership, and we will have a guest who will not be a host. Now, this will be a guest that we'll be talking to. Well, good morning. Keep it right here.
Spice up your life.
Okay,
Traffic.
City roundabout moving very slowly today as you're trying to get onto Landis Road or go towards industrial area. Moving towards the roundabout, a slow pace, but it's moving. We're not at a bumper to bumper situation, which is what is happening on Forest Road, as you're asking, which is Wangari Maathai Road. What's going on? Is it closed? It is, because of the accident that took place early this morning. You're not going to be able to use that road, at least for now, and they're trying to sort out those particular issues. All right, so it seems that there's a mess wherever you're looking at, and Gong Road is actually moving very slowly as you approach the roundabout. Langata Road, however, is clear, and it's moving, flowing like a Sunday morning. So Thika Road, coming out of that, looks like a little bit of a mess. You can use the southern and eastern bypasses today. You can also use the Red Hill bypass. Remember that there's that diversion at Kangemi, so things are looking a bit slow there. Also, we're going to see this heightened level of traffic on Mombasa Road through into the CBD out to Westlands. All right, guys? So let us know if you're stuck or you see something we should know about. Let us know on Twitter, SpiceFMKE, or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only
It's 3
way
minutes
to...
after 8. This is the third hour of The Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online. We still have a conversation with our guest host today, Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice, and we'll be continuing the conversation on alternative political leadership. But first, as is our tradition, the day's proverb.
If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief.
If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief, because he has left them in peace.
Look for him to congratulate him.
Thank him for
Thank him for the good work that he has done.
Or for leaving them alone.
Yeah, thank you for leaving us alone. No more taxation. No. Anyway, but I'm sure there are other ways of looking at this proverb. That is just my
Your interpretation.
my immediate interpretation of it. I blame all my problems on the chief.
Yes, you're a true Kenyan.
We have a former Chief Justice in the studio. So, issue of alternative leadership, alternative political leadership, as you were saying, Willie. Very many civil society organizations over time coming up, many other forums coming up, social justice forums around the country. Individuals who come up and they speak out and they say, I'd like the country to take a certain direction. But all of these are pockets all over. They are different. So you'll have a political party here. You'll have a civil society organization there. You'll have an individual there who's very vocal but says they don't want to associate themselves with any vehicle that's a political party. for one reason or another. How do you bring all these conversations together and then create a critical mass that can then make that change, bring about the transformation?
Yeah, I mean that's the crux of the matter, really. How do you, bring these movements that talk about transformation, and they are, because when you look at the social justice centers that are now over 40, they have a particular issue. If it's Mathare, I mean the Dandora and others, is extrajudicial killings, and they are doing that very well. There are others in Kisumu, others in Nyeri, and they're still being, created. And they take certain issues. I've mentioned decolonize. That is their struggle. You have others dealing with environment. The coordination, as you say, is important, and these movements will come together. I think in 1997 NCC happened, and there were so many movements that came together, and you could see who the leaders were, and we worked with opposition political parties that wanted also a new constitution and so forth. So at the moment, what I see is whether it's Linda Katiba or whether it's Kongomanola Mageuzi, it's again these movements coming together. The only difference this time around is that they are not looking for opposition political parties that are established because they don't exist anyway. They can't go to Wiper. They can't go to Amani. They cannot go to ODM. So as we speak now, there are, 3 political parties that I think are radical, and they are different, led by young people. Whether it's Ukweli, where Mwangi is, and Duku and others, Ori, the woman called Okolo Mwangi, and Chifa, or young people. Whether it's the Communist Party of Kenya, that has people like Buka, they're all, young people. Then there's the United Green Movement, which is of Agustino Neto, all right? And the alignment between the movements and these political parties is something that has never happened before. Okay, because our movements in the 90s, we always said, as you have said, we are non-partisan. Okay, so we're not interested in in politics, but that says a lot. Because there's nobody who is, everything is political.
Precisely.
Everything that you can think of, even in the, in your home, when your kids challenge you about your dictatorship.
Right. And there's no democracy.
Or the dictatorship of the father. And they say, that's politics. And it was mainly because of the donors, giving money and saying that you can't support partisan political projects and so forth. That was, a problem. But for the first time, I see movements where the young people want to be MCAs. There are parties that are talking about transformation. They are saying that they want to implement the constitution.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about transformation.
Yes.
All of them.
Everybody talks about implementing the constitution, the full.
Or changing it.
Or changing it. But there's something that you've mentioned, and I want to pick on it.
Sure.
The participation of foreign agencies in these movements, it has always brought a question mark as to whose interest are you really serving?
Are they serving?
Because Donors don't give you money and just tell you to do what you like with it. No. They tell you this is the path that we would like to see our money following.
You'll bring in somebody else.
Yes.
Let's bring in one of those parties that the former CJ has mentioned, and this is Ukweli Party. The Secretary General of Ukweli Party joins us now in the conversation, and his name is Nduko Omatigere. Nduko, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And well, you've heard what we're talking about, alternative political leadership. And Willie has basically said, yes, so we have all these movements. We've got Kongamano, we've got Linda Katiba, and then there are political parties that are radical in the way they are thinking, the way they are doing things. The question is, how do you bring them all together? And then there's the issue of partisanship. But let's start with the question that CT is raising. Political parties that receive some sort of financial or technical support from foreign governments or foreign organizations, whose interest do they serve?
I think you're talking about Jubilee.
Let's just go right to it
then. because they receive a lot of technical and political support from China, from the Chinese Communist Party, although they are not a communist party. And so, as you said, of course, when you
Chinese Communist Party really communist, if you look at China. But anyway, carry on with what you're saying.
That's a debate for another day. But every month there are droves of Jubilee cadres who are sent to China for technical training, and the contradiction you see is like a chameleon. You're being supported by a so-called communist party, but your behavior here, we know it's far from that. But for smaller parties like Ukweli, the issue of foreign funding is out of the question. Actually, the struggle of political parties in the country, if they're not parties owned by the barons in power, is financial resources. Because it's the members who dig into their pockets to support party programs, and that's why it becomes an uphill task. But the big question is, why are we entertaining a situation where the regulator is blind about the sources of funding for the bigger parties? Of course, we know apart from the foreign funding, there are also the local corruption networks that support the usual suspects, the big guns in power. And of course, whoever funds them has to put their demands on the table. And we are not surprised that these parties, the big parties, end up being anti-people, anti-Kenyans. And the interest they seem to pursue is far from the national interest.
So what's it going to take? And I keep saying that, if we're getting to that place where leadership must be transformed, and also asking the other question, Duko, that how then will you get to the point where Kenyans realize that the leadership under which they have been for the longest time may not be doing them the greatest service, and then say, we are actually going to move. We want to make this move.
I think what we are trying to do as the three political parties that are coming together as a united front to address these issues is to engage with the Kenyan public to reverse the political cultures that were introduced by Kenyatta 1, by Moi Kibaki, and Kenyatta 2 now, where politics is viewed as a game of patrons competing to outdo each other. And the appeal we are making to Kenyans, the clarification we made for ourselves is that it will take a huge effort of mobilization, of public education, of public engagement to get Kenyans to take Chapter 1 of our Constitution seriously. And that's the chapter that gives us the sovereignty as the people. And if we exercise Chapter 1 to the letter and its spirit, then you find that the people in power should serve the public, and the public should take their rightful space in the politics of of the country. And so for us, transformation is Kenyans taking politics seriously, Kenyans taking political organization seriously, Kenyans taking a closer analytical view of who gets to be in power, and changing the criteria that has been used dominantly since independence, because the criteria has been if you are wealthier, if you have been involved in scandals, you're basically a thief, big house in the village, you drive big cars, you fly helicopters to meet villagers at funerals, then that becomes the determinant of who gets into power.
But look, how do you plan to change this?
It's really engaging Kenyans on these issues and comparing that. We've tried these bandits since independence.
But the bandits are also engaging the same population you're engaging.
It's a game of hearts. It's a battle for the souls of the citizens. And one thing that we've done is that previously we've organized in our smallness as political parties, Ukweli organizing in its corner, the Communist Party organizing in its corner, the United Green Movement organizing its corner. And the hope we have is that when we pull our different advantages, when we pull our different constituencies together, because where the barons beat us is that they are organized, they've captured power, and they know what they gain by being in power. So it's really a contest of
Nduko, you're not answering my question. I apologize for interrupting you. I actually like what you're saying, but it is what any politician, would-be change agent would say. So if what you're saying is to gain traction, surely the how-to should take center stage, not what is. The what is, we understand, we know, and what you're putting it very well, but how exactly do you plan to go about implementing these wonderful things that you're saying?
The how-to
is
the organizing that we are doing, is the outreach that we are doing with citizens. It's the civic education that we are doing with the citizens. And I don't agree with you that these barons are doing the same thing, because the barons will mount the stage and their manifesto
but
is...
how then are they still in power and they continue to be in power if they're not doing the same thing? And they have followers, and the followers don't decrease, they seem to increase.
Why they are in power? Different reasons. These guys mostly will... They steal elections. And I want us to be kinder on Kenyans when we blame Kenyans that you're the ones who elected them. It's contested whether actually Kenyans elect these people. It's contested whether many people who win elections get declared to be leaders. We are talking about a rigged ecosystem of political contestation. And so there are issues about electoral justice that form part of our agenda, apart from the public mobilization that we are doing, that eventually we have a credible electoral system that where votes are actually counted, and when people cast their votes, those votes count. So what we are seeing is that the criteria of engagement of the people who have dominated power in this country has never been around issues. They've never been around issues of food security. They've never been about issues of addressing the housing crisis in the country, addressing unemployment and poverty, addressing the kind of indebtedness that they're getting the country into. We've not got to a situation where political engagement in the country is based on everyday issues that affect the citizens, and that's what we are trying to change.
And how do you plan to mobilize people to get to this phase that you are saying you'd like to see the country in?
We cannot eliminate the place of education and organizing, of engaging Kenyans where they are, and in our political program, it's basically turning political organizing in this country on its head, that we start talking with Kenyans, being analytical, that yes, you've lived in a situation where tribal lords who end up getting into parliament.
Look, you do know that you're theorizing here, nicely so, but you really are theorizing, because I'm asking a very specific question. And you take me back to where we've come from. I can even agree with your perspective, but the how to is important, because what you're saying is what people hear civil society saying. After every election, we hear all these things and in details, and we're even given data. But how, specifics. Apart, when you say you're going to engage people and you're going to talk to people.
How different? Maybe what you can do, CT, is let's start with these so-called barons. How do they organize? How do they engage with the people such that they're able to get the followers? How do you see them doing it?
First of all, they are very religious people. You know, Willie brought in the subject of religion, and I want to expound on it. You see, people coalesce around a religion, and they either is a leader or they choose a leader who seems to be able to promise that they will take them to whatever Canaan that particular religion espouses. But my view, Kenyans have all coalesced against one religion, one, and they all seem to be in agreement.
Around or against?
No, they are for this religion.
Which one?
It is the material religion. They get the God is economic and financial gain, and the religion revolves around it. So anytime people think of leaders, Mr. Nduko mentioned it well when he talks about people who drive big cars, they seem to exhibit that thing that people seem to like, and people hope that they will also get to. It's not as though people don't know what sort of leaders they have.
So they're pulled in by their material wealth.
But the reason why they're pulled in is because they've already subscribed to that religion.
Okay.
It isn't as though they're being forced.
So if I could help, maybe ask a question, and maybe to Nduko and Willie at the same time. Maybe you can both have a go at it. So if I hear what you're saying, Nduko, is then you need to begin to show Kenyans an alternate possible reality whereby they would not be dependent on this religion to be able to meet a need that they have, which seems to be what the barons are using today. Right?
How easy is it to move someone from their faith?
If to show somebody that this is actually what you could benefit from. If you talk about the religions that came onto the continent, there was something that people believed before that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they were able to move to another religion.
Yes.
So there was something that they were shown. There was something that they were shown, placed before them, that they thought, okay, hold on, why don't I try this? And before you knew it, people began to mushroom around these ideas. So do I hear you saying that it is possible to present an alternate reality to what people see today that would then make them make the decisions about changing who their leaders are?
Yeah, I think so. I think when he talks about politics of issues, and he talks about changing that reality, that's what I was calling hard work. If you are talking to young people, for example, and this has to be very continuous, and that's what the parties have to do, where you look at their material needs. Because what Muga is saying is the same thing. He's basically saying the narrative is built around something. So we've got to build this narrative about the material interests of young people, where you basically talk about education, you talk about health, you talk about the right to work, where work for me is the basis of human dignity. And if you don't work, you know, getting handouts from everybody will not help. So that is the crux of the matter. You to create that narrative, you have to tell people that this is what is going to happen. But you have to go further and basically show that you can actually do it. Because people will always be skeptical. They will think, as Muga was saying, you're just another leader who is coming out there. And once you capture political power, it's as business as usual. So it's a difficult, obviously a difficult, political struggle. But every day, and this is why political parties are very, very important, whether it's Ukweli, whether it's the others, because they will be able to pick on these, opportunities when they come. Look at the, corona, the COVID-19. People in slums were asking for food. They were asking for masks. They are saying, if you want us to wash our hands,
bring water.
Where is the water?
Yep.
Where is the water? And they even went further and basically said, asking the government, you know that the water in this town, it belongs to the cartels. The taps are closed.
Yeah.
So open them. Okay? Now, when you get people talking about material things like that, and this is where, to answer Muga, you must have political agents that can answer that question and make that part of their mobilization.
Right.
Because people, this is a cry for a different narrative. And that's why it has to be captured. And to capture it, people will have to get the imagination that they can be new leaders. And we saw that with the best example I give is the example of Mwangi in Starehe. Okay? Mwangi didn't have money. He was in Ukweli party. He mobilized people there on the basis that I don't have money, give me money. And he was able to collect, to get, I think, 16 million from people. Okay? And no, 14 million. But he got 16,000 votes. Okay? From there. Now, to answer your question, how you consolidate the 16,000,
Yeah.
that those people who believe that your alternative to what, that Mwangi is an alternative to Jaguar and Bogo. Okay, how you consolidate that? It's the crux of the matter.
That's the crux of the matter.
Because you've got to stay with those people, you've got to stay in Starehe. That's what we tell
You have to be part of
So
their
you-
life.
you have to
be
constantly
part
engage
of
them.
Constantly. That's you have to become a missionary, as it were, the priest or the pastor.
Now I get what you call it.
Who stays there. And there are some people who win elections that way. I want to give you the example of the guy in Meru, okay, who later became, of course, Jubilee.
Yeah.
But even before that, there was a guy called Devuti who was who was in Dar with me. He used to be Museveni's bodyguard, actually, in Dar es Salaam.
When Museveni was a student.
Yes, he was always in military fatigues and he had bodyguards because he was president of USAF, which was a great organization. So he thought his life was in danger.
Always.
He needed always. Anyway, Ivuti, when we finished Dar es Salaam, he was given a job as a teacher, but he didn't take it up. So he went to Kitui South. And just like a pastor, he campaigned on food for this was 71. He campaigned for 3 years until the people actually gave him a bicycle, they gave him a piki, and they voted him in.
Right.
That's basically what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the young people with the parties like Ukweli and others with great radical messages, right? But they have to get, they've got to do what the barons don't do, because the barons never go to the grassroots.
They have got to do the hard work. And time for us to take another break and take a look at traffic and the weather. So we're having a conversation in the Situation Room this morning with our guest host, Dr. William Mutunga, former Chief Justice, and the Secretary General of Ukweli Party, Nduko Omatigere. We are having a discussion around alternative political leadership in the country. Keep it right here. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
17 degrees. We'll go to highs of 24 today. Mostly cloudy in Nyeri at 16, highs of 24, highs of 26 in Nakuru today. 17 and mostly cloudy. It's sunny in Eldoret at 14, going to highs of 24. 30 will be the high in Kisumu, mostly cloudy at 21. It's mostly sunny in Kakamega at 18, highs of 30 and lows of 18. 33 will be the high recorded in Mombasa today, partly sunny at the moment at 25. It's also 25 in Malindi, going to highs of 31. 28 will be the high recorded in Kampala at 22 and mostly sunny now. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 27, highs of 31. Highs of 26 in Johannesburg, 14 and mostly sunny. It's clear in Lagos at 28. Going to highs of 34 and lows of 26, and Kinshasa is clear at 25 with highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Okay, so it's quite messy on Thika Road today. 2 hours and counting from Githurai to Survey, and that's what some people have had to face this morning. There was an accident. A lorry overturned in the middle of Wangari Maathai Road. So folks are asking, why can't you use it because of this? And the road has been temporarily closed, so if you're trying to go in that direction, you can't. If you're coming from Thika Road, you're going to have to stay on Thika Road, go through Pangani, go through Ngara, and then out towards Tomboya. You can't go round because of that road being closed there. Until they sort that out, those are the options that we have. The eastern and southern bypass looking pretty good, and we also have some construction going on Bagathi Way, so as you're getting into that, just take note of that, shall we? All right, we'll take a look at what it looks like in about half hour or so. It is Friday, things looking a little bit crazy, but we'll keep in touch. Spice FMKE, let us know also on Twitter and text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
All right, 28 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. This and every weekday morning, you have CT Muga, Ndu Oko, and Eric Latif. Our guest host today is Dr. Willie Mutunga, former Chief Justice. And our guest on the line is Nduko Omatigere. He's the Secretary General of the Ukweli Party. So this is Ndu Oko, and this is Nduko Omatigere. Just to be clear, there are two different people here. So Nduko, coming back to you, and I mean, you heard what Willie said in terms of political parties, especially now the current political parties, and the hard work that needs to be done to go over and beyond what the old political systems have been doing, and to also go beyond what the civil society organizations have been doing, organizing in their own spaces, but now political parties going to the ground and addressing the people's issues directly. Is this what you're doing?
This is what we are doing. And Willie has articulated the issue of engaging people around their material interests. But then what else we are doing differently is projecting possibility, because you realize that with the politics that has dominated the country, it's possible for people to be hopeless, that change is possible. And I'll give you my experience. I contested for election in 2007. And most of the feedback that I received is that the things they're articulating are great. If they could happen, that would really be paradise on earth, but not in Kenya. and this is because people will compare the possibility you are projecting with what they know. And the challenge becomes, how do you project the new political proposition that it's actually possible to change how we are governed, how we are served, and how we experience life. And examples like what Governor Kibwana has achieved in Makueni really give credit that it is possible when you identify citizens of integrity, hardworking and competent to be in charge of public affairs. How we are governed can change. And we match this with also presenting a viable political proposition, viable in the sense that you can preach all you want, but if people don't see that the proposition you are giving is viable, that actually if we gave this or that person a chance, things could be different. And our experience in Ukweli is that in 2017 we fielded 13 candidates, including Boni Mwangi. None of them succeeded. But then the engagement we are seeing our colleagues having with their constituencies, that those constituencies are coming back and basically telling them the issues you raised, the possibilities you raised, we think that's what we really needed. Please don't give up. Come back again. We may have, you may have been new. Kenyans will give you all those excuses, but we take them seriously that even when you don't win, but then you stay the cause. And what we did in 2017 is we set a very high threshold for our candidates that they were not going to give handouts. They were not going to use violent language or violent means in their campaigning, and they stayed the cause. There's actually one who was told what I was told in 2017, that the way you are campaigning so politely, you're not threatening your opponents. Maybe you have better chances of founding a church, because you could have a better career as a pastor than a politician. So the thing is that the constant context is it's a battle of what is popularly known. What people will engage with what they know, but then there is opportunity here that the three parties have come together, agreed on a common message, agreed on a common charter, agreed on a common way of campaigning, and without being naive, it's not going to be easy. It's an uphill task, but the task at hand is modeling the alternative that we seek. That it's not personality-driven politics. It's the possibility that actually Kenyans in their different voting areas can identify their leaders. And you will realize that in Kenya, most constituencies, the ward, the constituencies, they're represented by Nairobians. The people fly to their villages and contest. They're not averse with what is happening there. But we're encouraging people, what if your participation in politics goes beyond polling day? It also includes your identification of your leaders, supporting your leaders, people who understand the struggles that you have, so that we also reduce this influx of Nairobians representing most of the constituencies.
Nduko, where did you vie in 2017 and for what position?
I vied for Member of Parliament in a constituency in Kisii, Nyeri, Masaba.
Okay.
Among my opponents were Professor Ungeri and story for another day, but it was interesting.
You got some wisdom imparted.
A lot of it that actually changed how I organized politically. Yeah, it was a good internship.
Yeah. I was just saying recently, there was this young woman called Adita in Kibera who ran under Ukweli party, and she was sixth. She did well, and these are lone voices in the wilderness, as I call them. But I think they need, to be consolidated, and even this narrative that people are not going to pay anything because they don't have money. It's a good one. Because people forget that the narrative of money started with the formation of KPU, because there was this confrontation between Kenyatta and Kagia that was actually aired live, where Kenyatta was asking Kagia, well, we were in prison together, what do you have? Yes, and the narrative very quickly grew that somebody who has built a nice house is the one who can represent you in parliament. Okay? And it's still there. I've been in the village where there is a funeral, and the greatest thief in that village comes driving a big car. And the pastor says, the man has come. It says, so when Muga was talking, about these realities, and I think that's what he was focusing on. That's what I've learned from him. That there are certain realities, they are difficult. You just have to think through how you crack them, and how long you're going to stay cracking, at them, because they're so embedded in the people's psyche. Okay?
Yeah.
The fact that a Kikuyu peasant can actually believe, with the jiggers and all, that he is in power with Huru. It's a disease, isn't it? Yeah. Or a Luo peasant who basically believes that he or she doesn't need to read the BBI because Baba has said it's okay.
Yeah, said it's okay.
Okay? That's the kind of thing we're talking about, the strength and the genius of people who are in power. Okay? It can't be underestimated. So the young people have to come up with this messaging, and they have to stay on course, and if they get one MCA in a particular place,
that's progress.
That's progress.
Yes.
If they get, as Mwangi did, 16,000, you build on it.
16,000 is a lot of votes.
Yeah, you don't leave.
Yeah.
If he divided for MCA, probably would have gotten it. And being an MCA in Nairobi gives you a lot of,
that's
a
power.
lot.
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's what the impression I get with the parties and a lot of the movements now, is they realize that you can't go with the election cycles.
But Willie, if you look at the narrative that those barons, as you refer to them, have, their narrative is cleverly crafted to give the impression that they actually represent the common man.
Yes.
And so where there's a gap is that you don't analyze and say, okay, this thing that this person says they're representing mean, what exactly is it?
That's right. That is now the counter narrative.
Yes.
I'm going to Nairobi to fight for you.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Tukiwa huko sisi tunawaambia.
Yes.
That is representing you. That is fighting for you. That's how it's translated.
In fact, in my neck of the woods, the narrative that many MPs had when they are put to task about the development record, they said, no, but we are going to Nairobi to help Baba fight with this thing here. Okay? And you're thinking, okay, but the CDF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas the person who represents you should actually bear some likeness to you.
Yeah, this is why
there should be something that resonates between the two of you. That they, by the time they go to represent you, they know exactly what they are talking about because they're living it.
And that's why I think very, very, very strongly that for the political parties that are coming up, they have to focus on this MCA thing, because an MCA represents a few people, and my MCA is a relative. So the pressure, to align is great, because we go and talk to our mother and say, look at your daughter.
What is
she's doing.
Yes.
So when you start at the grassroots, up, after 10 years or so, you're going to get, people who, as you say, will not have to worry they will get money from people.
Yeah.
Because this idea of the citizens paying for their representatives, it has to be built, because it's one of the narratives that you have to to demolish.
Essentially, you need to own that leadership.
Yes, you have
to. It needs to be yours. When you contribute towards it,
that person owes you.
You own it.
Yes. You own it.
You own it. And this is also for the movements. You've got to have a membership. They have to act differently. When you are choosing your candidates for MCA, please, for heaven's sake, we can't rig.
Yeah.
Everybody does it very, very differently from, what happens now. And you start giving people the imagination that yes, there's a change.
It's possible.
It's possible, and it's a religious country. So once you give them hope, and they see it, and it's that change comes with results. That's why when Nduko mentions Kibwana, who I know very well, from the university, and I've been to Makueni a lot to see, what is happening and so forth. That's the beauty of devolution, because there are some counties that have shown that, whether it's Wajir, when the former governor was there, by just putting lights in the town, people started trading because the snakes, flew.
Yeah.
They took off because of the lights and so forth. So there are a lot of these little stories. Even in my own county, which is Kitui, whenever I go back, there's always something that has happened.
New.
Something new. Some bridge that was problematic has been built and so forth.
Some road that was problematic has been sorted out. Yes.
And you can wave down the governor and say, that road, needs to be graded. We have a wedding tomorrow. We have, the governor has to be there in a small place, and you wave them and you talk to the governor.
Yeah.
So these are the imagination, when you capture the imagination of people, that something better
can happen.
Can happen. And then you kind of build on it. You bring in the Hitler formula of
repeat.
I see the parallels then that you draw between how this can work, and also I guess Nduku, you can jump in here, but the parallels about how this can work and how it was done with religion on the continent, because they didn't come in shouting in the streets, follow Jesus. They built schools and they brought the young into school, and then families got to see that.
And they built hospitals.
So your sick were taken care of. Your children went to school. They became, skilled.
Yes.
And then they were able to get jobs, come back and help you.
Yes.
So in the process of all of that, then you began to tell them about this Messiah.
Yes.
But by the time that you were telling them about the Messiah, their illness was taken care of. They were a little bit more clever than they were before. They could trade and, get some money.
Yeah.
So it was easier for them now to hear what it was you were saying, because they were not hungry.
Right.
They had some hope. They were not sick.
Yep.
So like you're talking about here in Makueni, in wherever, in Kakamega in Kenya, somebody cannot take her produce from farm to market because there's no road. So you come build that road. She can feed her children. So when you come and tell her, Willie goes to her and say, come and vote for me, she's more likely to
She's going to
listen to you, because you've taken care of her problem.
Yeah.
You've not given her money in her hand, 50 shillings a day, she'll feed her children, then wake up hungry tomorrow. But you've given her a permanent solution to that thing that was plaguing her.
And also participation in Makueni, for example. It hasn't, maybe that formula hasn't been researched, hasn't been spoken a lot. The way they do the budgeting, they start from the village. It goes up. And the people start monitoring what Muga is calling owning.
Yeah.
Okay? The ordinary people feel that they decided that the county is going to build a factory for mangoes or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? And they were part of that decision, and they start monitoring it, and it happens. If it doesn't happen, they
question.
Yeah. So the aspect of of leadership, and I think in 2022, I see a situation where if this kind of change is going to happen, and the imagination is going to be captured, is to have people, governors who have done well, politicians who are saying they are different from the two factions. Okay, those who are saying tinga tinga, manga manga, tanga tanga, kieleweke.
Yeah, the manga manga.
And there is also another one called tuanga tuanga, which I think is Jubilee. So if you can have a third layer, of people who have done very well with resources and so forth, and they team up with these young people who are coming up also.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to win. It might, I don't know, but I'm saying even if it doesn't win, it's capturing the imagination of people.
You're planting a seed of possibility.
Yes, you plant it. Elections are about seeking the opportunity to crack. As Muga keeps on saying, that narrative that has been so dominant, you chip it, And the people start thinking, well,
what am I hearing? So as we come to 5 minutes to, we've got 5 minutes to end this interview. Nduko, as you're hearing Nduko, all right? As you're hearing, as you're hearing this conversation and how it's going.
Yeah, it's Nduko.
Not Ndu Oko.
Not Ndu Oko. Political parties, you guys have come together, 3 political parties. This is Ukweli Party, United Green Movement, and the Communist Party. You are forming a coalition. You're thinking of how best to approach the 2022 election, what you want to do, send a message differently. What would be the message that you want to give those who are watching you, those who are listening to you this morning, on the alternative leadership that is available in the country?
Yeah, one message is when you look at Kenya in between elections, there's a lot of clarity in the public about grievances, but then when we get to election time, the hearts go to the faction. So one thing we're asking Kenyans is to join progressive political parties and movements, because let's face it, the people in power made the political engagement really, really expensive. It's a costly affair. And where they outdo progressive politics because of money, they've made the political contestation so materially driven. So one is joiners, supporters, and not just signing up for membership, but also contributing to our political programs. We need to move around the country. As Ndiwoko said, the process has to be immersive. If there's anything we can borrow from the missionaries, although they are part of the political problem we have in the country, but then we can borrow the methods of immersing with people's struggles. You need to travel, you need to live with the people, you need to communicate. So it's signing up as members, but also contributing materially to enable our programs. But the second thing is that there's no shortcut to take back the country and take back political leadership, governance is a public service to the people. There is no shortcut. There is no replacement for Kenya's women and men of integrity being in positions of authority, as president, as a senator, as a member of parliament. So it's also urging Kenyans to really remember the grievances that they have. There's no solution if we don't fix the failure of political leadership and governance in the country, and asking them to give us a chance. And I'm saying giving us a chance because there's a cynicism that sometimes in our mobilizing work, particularly Ukweli Party, where we have forums in communities, slowed down a bit by COVID, but we also encounter this public cynicism that there's no way you're telling us all the right things, but there's no way. People have resigned that the extractive networks in power are beatable. But we are asking Kenyans give the emerging political organizations and movements a chance.
Right.
Join them, influence them, not just signing, but contribute to the ideas, and take the issue of political leadership and governance seriously.
Thank you very much. Nduko Omatigere is the Secretary General of Ukweli Party. So the Ukweli Party has teamed up with other civil society organizations, United Green Movement, Communist Party. You're thinking on one way of presenting a third force in 2022. Willie Mutunga has been our guest host from 7 o'clock. Now it's time for us to ask you, would you like to stay into the next hour? We'll have a conversation about this thing called vaccine. But I know you are a busy man. And also, we've got to recognize that you've been seated for 2 hours.
Yeah, you said 2 hours.
You're a retired man, and you need to take your time.
I have something else at 9:30.
Very good.
Eric is a retired Chief Justice. He is not a retired man. There are things he's still doing.
Right.
Yes, his just focus is now different.
His focus is different.
I don't know why people use the word retired. I favor the American formula where if you're president, they always call you president.
Always call you president.
If you're CJ, you know,
you're still
CJ. This thing about retired.
Don't like
you can't retire when the struggles are continuing.
Willie, your parting shots and speak to the country.
So what do I, we've said a lot of things, but there's something that I wanted to say, which we haven't touched on, and which is very, very, very important, and that is peace. Okay? I see the divisions that we have now might result in instability, in strife. I can see also the politics of revenge and vengeance, which I think is very, very, very dangerous. Whatever happens as people contest for power, peace becomes very, very, very important. And what I saw in Kisii, for example, MPs fighting, I am even surprised why the Inspector General of Police didn't have those people
locked up.
There's a law, whether it's a fray, whether it's what. The whole notion that some people are above the law just because they are politicians is really nauseating. But without peace, and we saw this in 2008, this country can unravel. So I think the Constitution gives us those rights. People should, give their messages peacefully and so forth, and not threaten people and so forth. We didn't talk about that issue, which is, again, one of the things narratives that people have to talk about. Because these people, they are not only our leaders, but they are also very violent. Okay? And when they use the machinery of violence, which is the police and whoever else, you see, you have no chance in hell. Okay, so I think, we were talking here about neopolitics, and that's what we have to keep on talking about. Because it's possible to have neopolitics. It's possible for Uhuru to retire or Raila, and not have the fear that the person who is coming next will haunt him. Because he remains a citizen, of this country. I know when the discussion about Moi's retirement benefits was going on, I was opposed to it, but I later thought that is a good convention of making sure that those who are leaving don't feel like they are going to be haunted.
Yes.
Because if they are haunted and they have cartels and they have goons and so forth, they'll
deploy the same.
And you will not be able to rule, because so that culture of peace, non-violence, it's something that even alternative political leadership has to convince us that they are serious about it. Because there are some people I know who, if they came to power, they probably hang a few people. Okay, and once you start on that road,
it never ends.
It never ends. So for me, politics of peace, no vengeance. And even if you comply with the law, because those people have rights.
Absolutely,
they have rights. You can't just walk out and grab somebody's land and say you're grabbing it. You've got to pay compensation.
Right.
That's what the law says.
There's a rule of law in the country.
Yes, we have a very progressive constitution that we can, deal with. So we've got to humanize our politics. I think it's become too inhuman. That's my message to the country.
Asante sana. Dr. Willie Mutunga, Chief Justice Willie Mutunga. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope to have you again soon.
Anytime.
Asante sana.
I don't have any time. We used to be told in public service, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. But nobody in public service has a busy schedule.
Truth told.
Thank you. Keep it right here.
Okay.
Conversations continue into the next hour on Spice FM. We want to say thank you
Yes.
to our audience on KTN Home. Tuning to Spice FM if you're in Nairobi 94.4, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or online. Next hour we'll have a conversation about Valentine's COVID-19 vaccine lie. The headline in the Nation, in the Standard today. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Okay, so still, you'll see that if you try to go towards Wangari Maathai Road this morning, what folks are calling Forest Road, still, you will not be able to do that because of the vehicle that was overturned this morning. So that accident still has not been cleared, and so that road temporarily closed. You're going to have to stick to Thika Road, and then get into the city that way. All right, Thika Road traffic jam also around Juja Road. It's crazy this morning just because of this. Folks are not able to go off into Wangari Maathai. Coming off of Kiambu Road is an absolute mess, guys. So it's bumper to bumper, and that is why so many things are not moving. Getting onto Thika Road and getting off of that. All right, where it's all right though is on the bypasses of Southern, Eastern, Red Hill. Those are still working. The diversion at Kangemi is still there, so that is also causing some traffic. It's slow coming out of the city. Let's look in half an hour how things may have changed. Spice FMKE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, 2.5 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. So let's begin this hour with the day's proverb.
Right. If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief.
If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief. Okay. At the top of the hour, we'll get C.T. Muga's context of this particular proverb. He said it's Liberian.
Liberian.
Okay. So the headline in the Standard this morning, Valentine's COVID-19 vaccine lie. So they say, brace for the long wait. The government first promised that the jabs would be in Kenya by the second half of January. We are into the second half of February next week. This then changed to Valentine's Day gift promise. Valentine's is this weekend. Now, internal government documents reveal that the state hopes to begin distributing the life-saving vaccine later in the year. So this story goes ahead. It's given page 6 and page 7 coverage in the Standard today. And it talks about, the various statements that have come from senior officials in the Ministry of Health. And this starts with the Cabinet Secretary for Health. It goes into the Chief Administrative Secretary in Health. It goes into the Director General of Health. And each of them was giving a various date. The latest one, of course, being the Director General of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, who said these things are coming. We have ordered vaccines and they're coming next 2 weeks, then roll out shortly thereafter. So, next 2 weeks means this month. However, according to the work that has been done by the Standard Group's Health and Science Desk, this clearly does not appear to be anywhere close. Let's bring in the group editor at the Standard Group in charge of the Health and Sciences Desk, Dr. Mercy Korir. Mercy, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
And I'm doing very, very well.
Good morning, Dr. Mercy.
Good morning. Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
At least I can see you.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, CT.
So, Mercy, this
Yes.
this story, you're saying we may have to wait until next year for the COVID-19 vaccine. Next
Well,
year.
from the look of things and the way you've just started the introduction into this conversation, is we've had varying dates. They've been shifting. Nobody is saying this is exactly when the vaccine is coming. I mean, if we had a definite date, all of those top ministry officials would have, they would be saying a similar thing.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be sure about when the vaccine is coming. So from the working document, this story by Mercy Kahendo, the working document said quarter 3, quarter 4 of 2021-2022 financial year. So our ask was, okay, quarter 3 and 4 takes it to next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they still insist it's coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
From everybody else that you talk to, those involved in this, because the whole conversation was, first of all, we get the COVAX vaccine, and this is the one that's coming through this alliance, and we've applied for the 24 million doses. What is the difficulty in getting them into the country within January and February? What's been so hard?
Okay, I think this is now probably a bigger global conversation on the vaccine nationalism, and we had talked about this before.
Yeah.
There's a high demand for the vaccines, obviously, and that's why, for example, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine that we are bound to get is being manufactured partly by an Indian manufacturer, so that they're able to meet the global demand. So I can imagine probably there's a queue. A week ago or 2 weeks, Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines, gave out a list of, so countries applied, yes, but that initial list, Kenya, for example, is supposed to get 4.1 million doses of the vaccine. So I think it's just a global, what's it called? There's a high demand for the vaccines globally, so the manufacturers is obviously pressure to manufacture on time. That's one. And then the second one, which I think now would be country specific, is the logistics of getting the vaccine in. Are you able to transport those vaccines? Because obviously you're not going to put them in a ship, but you're going to fly them in.
Right.
So are you able to bring those vaccines in? Are you able to maintain the cold chain? Because like this Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine needs to be in 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So are you able to maintain that cold chain from the moment you get it from the manufacturer all the way to your depot?
Right.
And then from what we see there, and that's the graphics on page 6, is the government expects that when it comes in, it goes to the main store, vaccine store in Kitengela, which has about 130,000 liters of cold chain storage. This is refrigeration, and there's a freezing capacity there to your right. Sorry,
14,000.
But yes, and then now all the other depots, and then they've had additional depots in Turkana, Wajir, Mandera. So you also have to think about the logistics of shipping or transporting these vaccines from Kitengela all the way to all those other depots. And you can imagine if you're going to take it to Turkana, you have to fly them in there. So do you have that cold chain capacity? So there's a lot of logistics and things to work out, which are now country specific. And well, if we're not ready for that, then there will be no point of bringing in vaccines that you're not able to distribute and administer as soon as they land within the 48 hours that they're supposed to be at port.
So, with all that you've said now, in terms of, because now this is detail, right? It's and very important ones at that, in terms of how this is supposed to happen. We are really not seeing any of this movement taking place, or are we?
Not yet. There have been this is still a working document, so they're still in the process of crossing the T's, dotting the I's. But from the ground, as we say, things are different because I think what they was doing was to do a status to check, are all of these things in place? What can we do? So I think that is where we are, because from the other people who are on the ground, there's nothing that has moved yet. Yeah, and this is just on the logistics and the distribution. We haven't come to discuss the issues of training healthcare workers to administer the vaccine, training them on how to identify and report adverse effects, because I mean, it's medicine like any other.
Yeah.
People are bound to have side effects. We haven't done that training yet. Then you come to the community, because of these quite a big, I don't know what to call it big, but that's very anecdotal, but there is vaccine hesitancy around. So we've not seen government come to tell us about this vaccine that we are getting, the Oxford AstraZeneca. This is what we expect. That communication strategy or communication to the public, to the communities, we've not seen it coming out so that, people are on board. I hope government is not just assuming that now when they bring the vaccine, people will flock to get vaccinated.
They'll tell you, go for vaccine and you will go.
Could they not be sharing this information because if we're looking at the true state of things, and not sharing this information because they too do not know when these vaccines are going to come?
Possibly. And I think that's why we had not had this information prior to yesterday, that it was still, we are planning, maybe organizing, doing things, looking at where we are. Maybe they're still doing all of those things. That's why this role deployment plan was still highly guarded secret, if I may call it that. Yeah.
Looking at all this, and of course, the government must be doing something behind the scenes, that trying to secure at least a number of doses. Now, with the difficulty experienced in just getting this the COVAX vaccine, how easy is it likely to be for the government to secure the other doses to be able to vaccinate the rest of the population? If just this one is seeming so difficult, is it any real to even contemplate that we can get vaccinated in this country, or a sizable population of people getting the vaccination in this country in 2022 or in 2023?
Well, it's a difficult question, because all of these things cost money at the end of the day. They're saying in total, when you break it down, a vaccine will cost $7, which is about 770 shillings per person. Let's say 800 shillings per person. So it costs money. So if government is to get additional doses, and they had planned to get, when COVAX gets for us 20%, they're planning to do 10% of the doses, so that there's 30% of the population covered. It's going to require a sizable amount of money. So the question for me is, does government have that money for Kenyans? Does it have that money to put into vaccination? So they have outlined from the 1.25 million to start with, going down, so just covering your most vulnerable population. But for me, yes, the plan is good, but where is that money coming from?
Do you have the resources to finance it?
Do you have the resources? Yes.
Because it goes beyond this. When you say the 700, this is just the vaccine itself, not counting the syringe and the needle, not counting the cold chain, not counting everything else.
No, that's inclusive, because the vaccine itself is 3.7, let's say about $4, and the syringes and things like that is about 10 Kenya shillings. So if you are to distribute the logistics and everything into the vaccine, 800, such as by the time you're getting the jab, it has come all the way to about that 800 shillings. So it requires money. Yesterday, US is saying it has already gotten into a deal securing 200 million more doses for their citizens. So it's money. If you have money, you're able to negotiate and be able to get vaccines for your people. So for us, yes, there is need for the vaccine. The plans will be good. But at the end of the day, the big elephant in the room is, where do you get this money to make sure that, people can access the vaccine? Because this vaccine, hopefully, unlike the testing kits, would be free. And so far, there's been no indication that Kenyans will need to pay for the vaccine.
What would you like to...
That is pay for the vaccine at the point of accessing the service.
What is
Obviously,
it
we'll pay it through taxes.
that we'd like to hear? Okay, so let's say officials of the health ministry have read this headline in the Standard today, and they're having a meeting and they're saying, all right, so no, we need to respond to this and correct the information. What would you like to hear from the government today?
I think for me, top of the list is to tell us when the truth about when the vaccine is coming. If you're saying in the next 2 to 3 weeks, are you saying it's in March? Are you saying it's in April? Because 2 to 3 weeks for me is very non-committal. So we say it is at this particular time. If it's not that time, we understand what is happening globally. Say we are experiencing A, B, C, and D, blah, 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 or we are still looking for money. So we are projecting that it will come at this particular time. But from December, they kept saying January, February. Now, if you put 2 to 3 weeks, we're in March. So I think definite timeline and a definite point at which Kenyans should expect the vaccine would be good. The second one is for government to tell us how they want to start engaging the public about the vaccine. And healthcare workers, because of what I was talking about, training them, administering the vaccine, and also for me, quite importantly, is picking out adverse reactions or adverse events from the vaccine. That would be, in my opinion, a very important bit. So I think for today, if we can hear that, that would be good. Obviously, of interest is to know where they are getting the money from, because at the end of the day, we have to hold people accountable. We have to put their feet on the fire.
Yeah.
Where are they getting the money for this? Is it going to cost me as a taxpayer, so that I know my debt obligations already? Health is not the only sector in which government needs to spend money, and it's been spending on others. So if you're going to get additional credit or additional financing for this, how much is it going to cost me as a taxpayer? So I think for me, those 4 areas would actually be good feedback or response by the government on this.
Dr. Marcy Korir, Group Editor for Health and Science in the Standard Group, thank you very much for these insights this morning. When you get any feedback from government or other relevant authorities, let us know.
Definitely.
Asante sana.
Asante.
18 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Time for us to take a break, take a look at the weather, and then we'll continue the conversations. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
The weather with Spice FM.
18 degrees, highs of 24 is what we're looking at in Nairobi today. Cloudy conditions for the most part. We're looking at mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 24 today. Highs of 26 in Nakuru and 24 in Eldoret. We're sunny at 14. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 22, going to highs of 30. 20 degrees, mostly sunny in Kakamega, going to highs of 30. We're looking at 33, the high, and lows of 26 in Mombasa. Partly sunny conditions in Malindi, going to highs of 31 and lows of 26. Mostly sunny in Kampala, 22, going to highs of 28 and lows of 21. 31, the high in Dar es Salaam today. It's mostly cloudy at 27. Mostly sunny conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 26 26 and lows of 15. It's 28 degrees and mostly clear, highs of 34 and lows of 26. Clear conditions in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 24. We're looking at haze over Beijing. At 11 degrees, we'll see highs of 15 and lows of -2 today. Clear conditions in Paris at -2, going to highs of 1 and lows of -6. At -1 in London, it's clear. It'll be highs of 0 and lows of -5. And -2 in New York today, looking at highs of -3 and lows of -8.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 21 minutes after 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. So the conversation that we had with our guest host this morning, Dr. Willie Mutunga, transformative movements, alternative leadership, and also bringing in Nduko of the Ukweli Party and talking about alternative leadership and what these parties are trying to do, mobilizing and organizing. The question that you keep asking, Ndu, then comes up. So we have all these movements, civil society coming up and saying, all right, guys, there's something that we are calling the Kongamano la Mageuzi, right? Saying we need to think of embracing new leadership, think of embracing new leaders. These younger people who have formed political parties and they've said, look, we want to present the alternative. And we want to organize and mobilize and go to the communities and say, look at us. So you have those that call themselves horses. Sisi, call us punda. Okay, but look at this punda. Are Kenyans ready to listen to the punda?
I'm not convinced of it.
You don't think so?
I'm not convinced. Well, look, one thing I do know is that an alternative force, an alternative movement reality will take time to make its way really embedded into society, the way the current ones have been. It's going to take time. It's also going to take a tasting, rather, of the people to see that, okay, this is a new reality. I don't know that Kenyans are so fed up with the status quo that they're ready to taste something else. That it's been on this one thing all this time that they're ready to say, okay, it's too much. I'm gagging. Give me something else. Because like CT says, it's like you accepted this thing and we know that that's the way it's supposed to be. If somebody new comes to you, the first thing that you ask them is, okay, so what's in it for us?
What do you have?
What do you have?
This guy can't even afford a pair of shoes. And he wants me to elect him.
I elect him and give him now position of, don't even go for, even MCA. Why should I even give you an MCA? Because that's the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
So have we seen that governance and leadership works so well and you're ready to say, actually, you know what? I don't need that handout that you're giving me. I'm going to vote the person in that I think is going to produce results. We've not been given that.
Not
been given the option. Not been given the option. And to say, okay, actually, you know what? Thank you very much for those of you who are giving us handouts. We're ready to go this way. We have a few examples, but we don't have the majority.
They're the outliers.
Yes.
I think we always have people who support that alternative voice. Always. That's why you see, candidates like say Paul Moita would vie for president and gets a number of votes. Abduba Dida vies for president and gets a number of votes. Peter Kenneth vies for president and gets a number of votes. And you're seeing all these people who are saying Ekuru Court gets a number of votes. If you just think about the Starehe 2017 campaign by Boniface Mwangi of Ukweli Party, where he said he tried to mobilize to get support from the people financing his campaign, managing to raise 14 million shillings, that's not mean feat. That's something that you can talk about. Getting 16,000 votes, that's something you can talk about. Now, I think there are always those pockets. The challenge is those pockets growing, getting bigger, becoming bags, becoming gunias, and becoming the whole thing.
Maybe that's why I would agree with them then coming together. Maybe that's why I would agree
It
to
won't-
say
it won't make
to
a
say
difference.
then that okay, it seems that you seem to have some traction here. Why don't you combine this traction that
So
you
your
have and
traction
get
on that
people
side
It
you
will
might-
not make a difference.
bring it here?
It will not make a difference.
Why do you say so?
Why I'm saying so definitively is this. I listened to what one Mr. Nduko was saying, and I was waiting to hear. You know how Chief Justice William Mutunga broke it down and said, look, aim for an MCA's position, all right? Aim for something that is not difficult to reach.
Yeah.
Be part of that community. Now, if you're part of that community, the truth is you could have asked them, folks, I want to get into this. What do you think is possible? Remember, that community lives there. They will know what is possible. If you actually relate to them, they'll tell you. And you tell them, this is what I want. They might even tell you whether you can get it or not. Why am I saying this? The examples that were given of John Paul Mwirigi, Gembe South. That guy started his politics at the age of 19. Okay? Mount Kenya University graduate. He beat the person who followed him by 3,000 votes. Penniless. But the things that he could do, among the things he could do, the local schools, you know these revision books, you've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
These revision books that people buy.
Yeah.
Those he knew he could afford, but he also had people who supported him. He could buy, give. Now, remember, by the time he was graduating, he had been doing this even before he graduated. At the age of 19, he started his politics, and he was encouraged. So he had enough time to see a cycle of students whom he had encouraged and his effort in the schools come to fruition by the number of students who actually passed. The other things he did, but he was part of that community. Now, it is that same community who voted him in. I think they figured, you know something, this guy may be an independent candidate, but we like what
He's our guy.
we like, and his youth, we like what this guy is doing.
Right.
We have a case of Shakil Shabir in an ODM-dominated part of the country. Stands as an independent because he couldn't make it in the nominations for the party. He is elected. And he gets in. These stories may seem few, but you keep hearing of them over and over and over again. In a place where there's a stronghold, you know, this party is a stronghold. Somebody else comes with an independent or some other party. Why? Because the people of that particular region have said, you know what? Okay, we support this party, but we also support this person.
Support this person.
Yes, exactly.
This is our person. Let's hear from Yegon, who's calling in. I don't know where he is today. Yegon, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and City plus Nduok.
Good morning.
Where are you, Yegon?
I'm calling from Matu.
Okay.
Yes, my point is, these small bodies still have a lot to do. People are not subscribing to these small bodies. In fact, independent is far better than fighting in these small bodies like Mungano or Kwele Party. Reason is because these small bodies see themselves as the hope of the people, and they present themselves as better than the big parties. Okay, in Kenya we don't have the big parties, but now the big tribal leaders. Because
well put.
For example, let me use for example Rift Valley. In Rift Valley now, William Ruto is perceived to be the kingpin in North Rift and South Rift. Now, if you are not fighting, now people follow William Ruto, not the party. Because if today William Ruto moves to Ukweli Party, for example,
Ukweli would be a big
Ukweli Party itakuwa maarufu sana. So because I heard William Mutunga speaking, if these people could at least apply some another tactics, that they present themselves as a third of choice, but they end up doing a coalition with these guys,
with the big ones.
Yes, with the big ones, so that by the time now when they enter the house, you can start now doing your work as a voice to the people.
So you can start listening. Okay, yeah.
Yes, because when you are campaigning, for example, for a person who is independent, a person who is vying in independent still have a lot of challenges because he wants to place the symbol of a national party. For example, maybe Awege Bija Uru Naruta, like for 2017. But the person vying in JAP can petition that and you can be removed. So as an independent, you have to move.
Yep.
But sasa, if we had to quell the party now, coalescing, maybe supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta up there, so that you can use their image, then people will know now, see the party. They will
But
say,
Ukweli will be swallowed up by Jubilee. It will be like that. What was UDA before?
In fact, me major UDA juicy.
It transformed from some other party that had been swallowed up by Jubilee. But we hear you, Yegon. Thank you very much for calling.
Okay.
Wacha tuchukue break 9:30. We want to take your calls as well. 0719-012-600. Are you ready for alternative leadership? Are you ready for alternative leadership? That is from political parties to individuals that you now look at and say, you haven't been there, you haven't participated in this. Or you have participated, but you have actually done well with the position that you've been given. And so we want to hear more of you. Are you ready for that? 9:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, things are flowing
Traffic.
beautifully on Langata Road this morning. No problem there. Trying to get into the CBD, and you're going to go past the roundabout at Timor, go through either to Bagavi Way or then down through Langata Road out towards Nyayo Stadium. We still have some hold up there around the Nyayo Stadium roundabout going into the CBD, where it is a no-go zone if you're not already there. Thika Road, Kiambu Road, and then trying to get off into the CBD. Mangari Mathai Road is not possible. It's been temporarily closed because of the accident, and that is still the situation, guys. So you might want to, avoid it for at least the next few hours until that is sorted out. Apart from that, things seem to be settling in terms of traffic, especially on Mombasa Road and then coming off of Ngong Road as well. All right, talk to us if you need to through the day. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
To 10 o'clock. From Nyandarua, our friend John is on the line. Good morning, John.
Morning. How are you, everybody?
Good,
Fine, thank you, John.
Happy New Year, John.
Yes, and Happy New Year.
Good to hear you. Are you well?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm well. I'm fine.
Very good.
Doing well. Now, I wanted to contribute on this thing. I've had the former Chief Justice give very good contributions this morning. But I want to say that whatever they are proposing cannot be realized in this country.
Why?
Because I agree with him that a majority of us belong to that region of materialism. For instance, if today he went with his Ukweli party in Kibera, then on the other side is the Hubaru party with their goodies. You believe with their goodies, definitely he will be stoned in Kibera with his best sermon. Because everybody would rush to where there are goodies. So changing this narrative of our politics is very difficult in Kenya today. And in fact,
but John, is it impossible, even if it is difficult?
It is very difficult. Very difficult indeed, because everyone is married to materialism. A majority of us are married to materialism. It is impossible.
So we can't change. Is it that we are unwilling to change?
unless somebody comes into the office, luckily, who will come with the strictness to the Constitution, somebody who believes in constitutionalism.
Yeah.
And get a police force that believes in the rule of law.
Right.
A judiciary that believes in the execution of justice. That is the day that these things will be realized.
Boy.
For instance, the CJ never managed to change the judiciary.
Yeah.
Mutunga himself. It is the same judiciary that we had. Very little has changed.
Well, it has changed somewhat. Like you said, incremental changes.
Just slightly. Otherwise, it's still the same thing. And we gave a good example of what happened in Kisumu. Nothing took place.
Yep.
The MPs are free people.
Yep.
Just imagine if it was an ordinary man who did that in the streets.
In
He'll
fact,
still be locked in.
that's true.
Yeah?
That's true.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
cannot change. And this thing of changing started many years ago with the people like the late J.M. Kariuki.
We hear you. We hear you, John.
I have come to... let me finish. I have come to realize that even J.M. was a political con, because J.M. was a millionaire. On the other hand, he has 800 acres here in Jandaro. A very posh home in Garden Estate. Was that a poor man then?
Not by any means, man.
Exactly. They are all conmanship. That's all conmanship.
Okay, John. Thank you, John. By the way, before you go, those that little matter of the hospital beds.
They've not yet come.
Oh dear.
So this was a permanent relocation of the beds.
Exactly, permanent relocation.
Okay.
But our dispensary is working now, not like other places.
Okay. Have a good day, John. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mila Menga in Siaya, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Say hi to India and Iti.
Good morning, Mila.
Now, I wanted to give a quick comment. One, I want to tell you that Kenyans are fed up with the porridge.
Yeah.
And what is unfortunate is that the deputy president is even taking the little lemon that has been put on the porridge. I wish he had come with sugar. and what I'm talking about is when I heard the deputy, the CJ talk, I picked out two things. When he started talking, he talked of he is now doing well. He's now well. You saw him and you were commenting on how he's looking, right? And he told you that he's now out of the public service. That's why he's looking. He
doesn't have the virus.
Yeah, and later when he was finishing, he was telling you that in the public service there's enough time. Nobody has enough time. He was talking of saying when you're leaving the public service, when you go into a meeting, somebody tells you, "Thank you for your time," and it was saying that in the public service, people have time.
Yes.
So there was a big contradiction. And for me, if you ask me, people who want to change Kenya need to get into the public service, directly into the public service, so that they make change from inside. Because we've taught this over time. Raila tried it, and he went back. He has been going back to the service. If they want to create a new political party, and we know these people who are starting party. Actually, I was with Buka, the chair of Communist Party in campus, and these are people we know very well. So what we are asking, the Kenyans, what Kenyans are asking for is real development on the ground. And if you ask me, if you go into every village, there's somebody called a village elder. This is somebody who is elected. He's not appointed. He's elected. But if you ask anybody if they know their village, who is supposed to control the big chunk of government resources on the ground, nobody knows whom they are. Nobody knows whom they are.
So
And if you
Kenyans
go
are
there,
fed up, but they are not participating. They're not active.
They are not participating. They are seated there. They are talking about this euphoric movement that will come from Nairobi and get into the villages in Siaya. That will not work.
So they're not fed up then? So they're not fed up?
No,
because
no.
when you're fed up with something, you will either then take a following action. You're fed up, you're not going to sit there saying, oh, I'm really fed up and I'm sitting in this corner. You're fed up, it's going to be followed by some kind of action. You will say something, you will do something, and not just sit in the moment.
You know, what we are imagining is that it should be revolutionary. It should be like it should be a strike. But in Kenya, it is evolving. It is evolving. And it is evolving because Kenyans are informed enough and they know where they want to go. And if you ask me, if you looked at the Bomas draft constitution, it was a two-tier government, that four-tier, where the government had to reach at the location level. But that was trashed by the same team that you are seeing taking leadership today. If it is in the constitution that we should have the village council, but tell me one governor, it's only Kivuta Kibwana who is trying, but tell me one governor who has empowered village councils on the ground. Nobody, none of them has done that.
Okay,
and if we can instill that, if we can implement that, and we will implement it, I tell you. And if I tell you Kenyans are fed up, it will be implemented.
So it will change.
It will change. It is evolving. It will take time. Kenyans might be ambitious enough, and they must be pushing. But I want to promise you, it will change. It will not come from the ivory towers.
It will come from the same Kenyans.
It will come from the same Kenyans, and it is just a matter of time.
Thank you,
I promise
Mila.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Asante sana.
Okay, welcome.
Christian in Nairobi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, the problem with this small political parties is that they are not entertaining enough. Kenyans love the political intrigues more than the policies and everything else. We are more interested to hear how Raila answered back Ruto and how Babu Owino answered back, I don't know, Junet, and those are the things that
How
Kenyans
Kalonzo
are
will bring Mudama's wife back.
Yes. Those, and people giggle about it, and that's funny, and that's...
Right.
The guy who's coming to the ground and talking about policies, this guy is boring, man.
Is he really?
In the perspective of Kenyans.
I mean,
yeah, when you sit and you listen to some of these folks and what they're saying, and vis-a-vis what you really want the country to be or where you want it to go, do you sit and listen to issues that people bring up and say, oh my gosh, this is boring? Whereas on the other side, there's personality and there are things going on and it's something to watch. Do you listen to that and find it boring?
Unfortunately, Kenyans don't. I mean, we have disconnected. Of course, me, I personally, I think I'm more versed to understand that this is...
you're woke.
Like, I guess I would say that. But maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm really not the right person to describe myself. But Kenyans have disconnected policies and
politics.
And politics.
So we say politics is like entertainment, and these
It's
policy
entertainment.
stories are not entertaining. So
It's not entertaining. That's the problem. People need to understand that whoever you choose has a direct impact on your life.
we hear you.
And we kind of know it, but we just we shove it to the side when the politics gets more interesting.
So what would you advise the small parties to do? Be entertaining. Recruit the political
Yes,
hooligans.
you have to play their tactics,
Play the
beat them
game.
at their own game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Karaoke in Nakuru.
Yes, how are you guys?
Good,
We are fine,
Karaoke.
Karaoke.
How are you?
Fine.
Very well, thank you.
Are you City is not there?
I am here and I am well. How are you, Karaoke?
I'm okay.
You don't
I
sound
want to-
very okay, Karaoke.
I just a little home, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I want to contribute what Mutunga has been saying all along, ever since morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Mutunga, according to the Kenyan people, is very good, isn't it? According to them, according to anybody who heard what he has said, and maybe who has been following ever since he was a Chief Justice.
Uh-huh.
But do you know what? Today, if Mutunga has to vie for a president, let me tell you something. These Kenyans will not vote for him. Today they are glorifying him. I know that. Anyway, I'm here on the ground. I know how Kenyans behave. You even know it, Eric. City. You know everything about this country.
So why would Kenyans give somebody
and the
like
reason
Willie?
why, just a minute, please. And the reason why I've been agitating for this gentleman called Ruto is because he is not the best among the rotten apples in this country. I think he is the best rotten somehow.
He just has a bit of
Than
rot.
As in, best meaning he's more rotten than the others, or is less rotten?
Less rotten.
No, he is a better rotten than the others. So therefore,
That's
if
a
we
new
are
term.
just listen to what I'm saying. We are not voting, or I'm not agitating for Ruto just because he is the best. But we are just trying to come with a mechanism whereby we shall get rid of these big families. Those guys who has been there since independence, as Mutunga has said. This is what we are trying, because we have tried them more than 50 years. Finally, we end up suffering even more and more. Remember when you were deceived by this gentleman called the current president? We were all behind him, saying he comes from the big family. You know his father and all the goodies he came with. But today, as Kenyans, we are suffering, my dear. So what we are saying, first and foremost, we are trying to come with a strategy where we shall get rid of this dynasty, away from power, so that we can bring somebody like Mutunga and these others. Because as they are there, no one can even try to clean the top seat if those guys are still there.
But
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Kariuki, instead of looking at one of the rotten, why don't you look for one that is clean, that's presenting themselves? And there are several.
There is. Okay, then. I know they are there. But we have tried, even here at the grassroots level, a councillor, an MP, a very good one, with a better way of bringing our life, making our life better. But if you come back to the grassroots during the time of voting, these guys change. These guys change. They don't glorify anymore. They go to a rotten apple. That's what they have been doing. Like here in Nakuru, in fact, you know the kind of an MP we have. If I tell you, anyway, I don't want to mention anything like about him. But if you come to the ground today, everybody is complaining about what we did that other time during election. Today, let that guy come tomorrow. You see the same people who have been cursing, attacking him, they will change and even vote for him. Yeah, they vote for him. So what
Why will they vote for him, Kariuki?
These people, my friend and city, have been telling you they need somebody to come and try to. I think you should be on the ground for around 5 years for these people to accept him. No matter what you come with, they need you on the ground for 5 years. Like today, we are having somebody we are maybe plotting to take over the councillorship here in Nakuru town. And I think that guy has gone deeper into the ground, whereby everybody is singing his songs about him. Everybody is glorifying him. So you need to be around 5 years for these people to accept it. So what I'm saying, Ruto is not the best candidate. That's what I've been saying all along. He's not the best candidate. But who can get rid of this guy? Who? Just imagine today, Raila, Uhuru, Mudavadi, Moi family, they are all against one person. Just look at what is happening. Just because they have realized you are coming out with a strategy that will get rid of us away from the top.
But Kariuki, think about it. Yes, I agree.
I'm thinking, I know.
No, I actually haven't said what you should be thinking about. What I was saying is, if you consider just for a minute, all these people we are talking about, which one of them is actually telling us how we can get out of our problems. It is easy to point fingers at others and say they're doing wrong. It is also very, very easy to talk about hustlers and to talk about dynasties. That is the easy part. But what is it that one is actually saying? And I'm talking about all these political leaders. What are they saying they are able to, not will do, able to do to make the life of the Mwananchi better?
City.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
This guy has been going out, maybe giving out even money or giving out Gurbaro and so forth. But if you look at Zaire and Uhuru and the other guys who have been there since independence, you know they own everything.
Actually, at independence, Uhuru was a child.
I mean to say, I'm talking of their families. Even plus him, the few days he has been in power. Just look at what he has done. I know a lot, but I don't want to mention them here. I know a lot anyway. But what I'm saying, despite the fact that they have been in the leadership for all that long, go today to where these guys have been born. Raila was born in Siaya. Or let me say that is his descendant. I mean, that's where he came from. His father came from, right?
Yes.
Uhuru, Katondo, and so forth. Let's go back to the last election. Tell me today, Mr. City, Siaya, his brother of Laira, Oburu Dinga, he failed to capture the seat he was vying, isn't it?
Yeah, he did.
Isn't it?
Yes.
He did. But today, he is a nominated MP in East Africa Assembly, isn't it?
Yes, he is.
Okay, tell me in Siaya, no any other family could have given that seat so that he can lift their life as well. Go back to Katondo.
Nobody else in Siaya is Raila's brother. Uburu happens to be Raila's brother, so therein lies the difference.
Let's go back to Katondo. As a nominated Senator Bedmo, tell me truly, when you were campaigning, somehow, and Paul Ekwakuwa Mgonjwa, he was sick, isn't it? He was ailing, isn't it? But after election, he was nominated senator. Do you want to tell me in Kiambu, he was the only one who was supposed to be nominated?
I wouldn't know, honestly.
You would know.
No, I wouldn't know.
In Kalonzo's backyard, his son today is an MP from the East African Assembly, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Now tell me, in Kitui, you want to tell me nobody else was there to be nominated instead of Kalonzo's
Once
son?
again, I wouldn't know.
Where do we belong, the rest of us as Kenyans, if this is the thread these guys are taking? What about that things that we don't know? The parastatal chiefs and so on and so on. What shall happen to us?
Correct, your point is a valid one.
Why? Okay, that is the reason as to why you can see most of us bending on Ruto's side.
But
That's
what
because
makes you think that when somebody else comes into power, they want to do exactly the same thing that these people whom you're castigating are doing?
That one depends on God. Because already the ones that we have shown us they cannot do it. But the Ruto, as you can see, he is even trying to come back to the ground. Even before, during 2013 reign, if you remember the first term, the gentleman used to go even to the ground, not even now that he is vying for the seat. Even 2013, that's what he used to do. That's the reason as why you can see many of Kenyans, maybe most of them going back to him.
Karaoke?
Yeah?
When he used to go to the when he used to go to the ground, what did he go to do? So that we can understand now how you're feeling that impact.
Tell me something. Today, I'm a small scale trader.
Karaoke, I want to understand what he used to do when he went to the ground, because you're very sure on that point that he used to come to the ground so people knew who he was. What was he doing when he came here? When he
comes to the ground, today, let me tell you something. If Ruto has to come to my place, my small business here in the market, if he happens to come and even sit down just where I am today, I'm telling you, because I've seen what he has done to many, my business will never be the
What
same
are these things that he has done, Karaoke?
Just a minute. If tomorrow, Uhuru happens to come to me, because I have gone even to their home, and I have met him there. I know about this gentleman. Nothing will change. But if Ruto happens to come to your home, even your home, your life will change and the life of your family. That's the way. I'm not saying that just because he is giving out, but he is saying things that ought to change this country. There's the last man on the grassroots. Try to feel what these guys at the top feel, because by the look of things, the guys are blocking. Nobody else should know what is written at the top. But they're just trying to tell us, I've come from the grassroots.
And
these guys,
back. Karaoke,
the way
tumekusikia. Hata homa imeisha.
Imeisha kidogo kwa sababu unajua nikiongea sisi akiwa hapo nafurahi sana, because sometimes moja tutakutana.
So utakuja. Thank you very much, Karaoke. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Malala in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I just heard Karaoke talk and I was just laughing, you know.
Why?
Quite an interesting contribution from Karaoke there. Because he goes ahead and mentions how other people have been in leadership, has been nominating their kings into leadership positions. But what he forgets to mention about his preferred choice is that when he had the half of the government, he nominated entirely people from his own community and even made his daughter an ambassador. Wasn't there anybody from the Rift Valley backyard who could fit that profile to become an ambassador? Weren't there people from other places who could make it to become cabinet secretaries, head of parastatals and all that? It have to be from his own community. You see? So, like we say, all these people are rotten. So, in getting rid of the entire system, let's get rid of all these politicians. Okay?
And
but
then who do we get?
Say again?
Who do we get?
Why not you, for instance?
And what guarantee that if you get Eric, he will not be like the others given time?
Like he said, we leave that to God.
Then why don't we ask God to elect?
You've got to take a chance, City.
And also,
I am a viable alternative, City.
I didn't say you're not. I'm just asking, how do we know that you will not be just like the others who were castigated?
Yeah, you tell us one thing today and then tomorrow you're behaving
we don't have a guarantee on that, but also let's stop dragging God into politics. During the 2007-2013 elections, we were told that these leaders are chosen from God. So does God hate us that much to give us these people twice?
Twice.
Actually, sometimes what God does, he gives you what you need, not what you want.
Anyway, thank you so much. That's all I need to contribute.
Thank you, Malala. Asante sana. Have a lovely day. So, are we ready for alternative leadership? Bottom line, as things stand today.
Yes, we are.
For 2022.
Yes, all of us are ready for an alternative that suits our purposes.
Okay.
Yes, all of us.
As long as, so we'll define it.
Yes, alternative, yes, but must suit our purpose. Otherwise, it's not an alternative. Status quo, yes, it must change, but it must change in our favor.
I hear you. Okay. Today's proverb.
Right.
This Liberian proverb.
Yes. If the townspeople are happy, look for the chief. Essentially, it is the power of example, whether it's in good leadership, whether it is in where good leadership entails people's needs being met, or a clear understanding of the path that they are being taken to, or in them feeling that they are part and parcel of that entire process. But again, every time you hear of people talk about specific leaders in this country and they speak with joy and they speak with admiration, I would argue they're happy. And that happiness is you need to look at whoever it is who's leading them. And you will find, and by the same token, if you find people are disgruntled and they're complaining, once again look at the leader and ask, why are they complaining?
Go and look for him. In this case, look for may not necessarily be go looking to find out where he is.
Not physically.
But look for as in look in that direction.
I mean, when you think about it, and the fickleness that we approach our entire political system with, at one point in time, you'll be the darling of the people if you seem to sing the song. But the reality is it does not translate into votes necessarily. Come voting day, you can get the shock of your life.
Things will be different.
People have been hospitalized when they've received those shocks.
That's true. Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room this week.